Welcome to the Canada Guns Talk Show, episode 101, Kangaroo Court Edition. We are your hosts, these guys, plus
I
one
look
extra
fat. Oh my god, this shirt makes me look fat. Holy crap. Hi, I'm the Crover.
I think it's the lights in the camera.
Yeah, definitely
They're
not
too accurate.
the COVID-15.
They're too accurate.
Crover introduced himself, introduce the rest of yourselves.
Adriel, say hi.
Hi, I'm Adriel.
Gracie, say hi.
Hi.
Ian, say hi.
Hi, I'm Ian Runkle. Go by Varsil on Reddit and criminal defense and firearms lawyer.
He's legit. We're kind of...
We're kind of not.
No, we are. We are. I have a domain. I just haven't made anything with it yet.
That's right. You're a proper ass firearms instructor.
I am, and I
True.
have questions for you, Ian.
Uh-oh.
Now, before we get into that, has anybody done anything gun related in like the month and a half, or in your case, Ian,
kind of.
lately?
Well, I won a rifle. That was
Ooh,
exciting
Which?
times.
which?
I'd have to... that one's downstairs, but it's a 6.5 by 284, and there's 3 different names for the cartridge, but made by local gun manufacturer here. Sorry, I'm just
That's
E&M
emblem,
Precision
right?
Rifles.
Yeah.
So-
Precision.
So
They
you have some Wildcat?
what's that?
You have a Wildcat chamber rifle?
Pretty much. I'm going to have to. I've got to.
Do you
get in touch
reload,
with my-
sir?
Not at this point, but I'm going to have to get in touch with my insurance company and ask them, hey, how much is this going to screw up my rates if I start doing this? Because I know that they've got a different bracket essentially for that.
Well,
So
if it's 6.5 by 284, there are some that are common out there that do that.
yeah, well, it came with dies, but
That's an indication that it is not a common one.
No.
Yeah,
They
you'll
used to
need
rechamber
this.
Enfields to that in Australia in the 80s or something.
I did find somewhere that sells it though.
Oh,
So
Really?
okay, yeah. It's supposed to be a stinking hot, like great long range round.
What is it? Is it like a fancy 6.5 Meadmore or something?
Way more powder behind it, like
Okay.
a ton more powder behind it.
yeah, EM pretty much what they do is fancy long range rifles, and they do good work. I've shot some of their stuff. It's fantastic. Of course,
Do
now I
tell it,
sound like I'm a paid paid
No,
sponsor.
don't worry.
So-
We shill people that have never heard of us and will never hear our shilling. So don't even worry about it.
Fair
Also,
enough.
12 people watch this show, and maybe another 60 will in the next week. So who cares? Um,
Well, it's
what
not
I did
thought
want to
it
ask
was,
is,
but, huh.
if you don't mind sharing, how did that rifle come to be given to you?
There was a draw over at the Tundra Supply, so I sort of bought in and figured, hey, this will probably not go anywhere. But and then they messaged me and said, hey, you won, and I think my response was, what? Because I didn't actually realize, I was like, what did I win? Because I didn't expect that. I just, threw in and surprise. So that was pleasant.
Yeah, those $5 tickets to draws are dangerous like that.
Yeah, I never really expect to win anything. I just sort of look and see, is this going to be going to people I like? And if so, toss some cash at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was quite pleased.
So how stanking is it? Have you shot it yet?
I haven't. I've got to actually take it out and get a scope put on it because it's not going to do very well outside of that. I don't think it's actually got irons on it, so broadside of barn would be my. But so I got to get that done and then get it sighted in and then start playing around with it.
Okay. The scope mounting, not something you've considered doing yourself, because that's also fun as hell.
I haven't, but I mean, I always try to branch out and learn more things. I came to guns fairly late in life, so I keep branching out and learning more things about them as I go.
Mounting a
And-
scope's not difficult.
Yeah,
But
it
see
doesn't-
that. But now that I was thinking about it, is guys, you got like a fancy pants rifle. You probably want those rings to be true, and what the hell is the name of it? When you put the
Lapped.
compound in, lapped. Yeah,
Yeah.
You want those lapped. You want the scope to be concentric. You want probably more than just.
You don't need to
Like-
lap them if you get like real fancy rings. The real fancy
I
rings
know,
are
but-
machined really
Or
well.
you just get a good fucking Simmons there, bud. Slap her on the top and go at her. eh?
I mean, the thing is you get once you've got a rifle like that, you got to put some money on a scope. It's not.
Yeah, you do.
no. It's like, hey, here's a $300 airsoft scope. Let's go to town.
Dude. I mean, you could post it for the memes alone.
Here's a video of me shooting a really nice gun with a really crap scope.
Yeah. Think of
Yeah.
the views. You would double the views on your videos just right there.
I suspect Steve, who's the guy who, I suspect he'd be really pissed if I did that to his rifle. I'd get an angry message like, man, what?
Right. So did you do anything else gun related, Ian?
Mostly I just have been roped into, and I say roped into, but started making these videos. And
Right.
largely because I had a guy. So one guy kept messaging me based on my Facebook page where I occasionally post commentary and so forth, and he'd said, say, make a video. And I told him basically, no. And this was been going on for like 6 months.
Ooh.
And
Persistent.
so, yeah, finally he says, make a video. And I sort of go, well, okay, just to shut this guy up, I'll make a video. And I figured, hey, I'll make this video and it'll get, 20 views. And then I can say, see, go away. And that totally was not what happened. I think the first one is sitting at nearly 15,000 views, which is
Ooh.
the most successful of all the videos. But so I can't really. And here's an idea of just how successful I thought this would be: is I posted that and then I went camping. And I just kind of figured like I'd post it and then that would be it. It would be nothing, And if it's nothing, then of course it's low maintenance, right? If nobody cares, you don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah. I know that
And
feeling.
my phone would not stop just sort of chiming about, you have another subscriber, you have another comment. And so I spent a lot of time
In the bush.
recharging my phone so that I could try to keep up with this. And the only place I could find a power outlet was attached to one of the toilets. So I'm sitting there tethered to this toilet, and I didn't really bring a charger with me because I'm going camping. So I had to buy a charger at a gas station. And, I have the park rangers going, and they weren't sure if it was okay that I was stealing power from this thing. They eventually, I think, decided, like, okay, if that's how this guy wants to spend his camping trip, sure. And of course, this is the showers, so the bathroom with the showers. So it's shut down because of COVID. You can't even go in there; it's locked up tight. But I'm sitting out front, and at one point, I actually brought out a folding chair, so I'm sitting out of the closed bathroom with my phone, and there's people pointing at me and looking at me, and I'm going, ugh. It was totally unexpected, but I guess now I'm making YouTube videos, so here we are. So that's at
Welcome.
Runkle
The
Day.
community sucks and avoid the comments.
I mean, comments for everything. Actually, they've been pretty good. People, there hasn't been sort
Right,
of
yeah.
on Reddit. Sometimes you'll get people who are just like aggressively wrong, and they think
Oh, we
they know
got a
better
story
than
about
you.
that, don't we, Adriel?
Yeah. Just today. But
I think the
yeah, keep
funniest.
Go on.
The funniest Facebook interaction I've ever had was a guy who. So I was posting about Falauka, the Supreme Court decision, which is a terrible decision, but there it is. And I was talking about what the law says, and this guy comes out swinging, and he tells me I'm wrong,
Okay.
and
Off to a good start.
well, and this is not uncommon, but then he says you need to look up, Ian Runkle, firearms law and criminal defense.
up.
And I'm going, I am Ian Runkle. And he says, this is the quote, and I said Ian Runkle, firearms law and criminal defense, not the one without a law degree in criminal defense. And I don't know how many people he thinks are named Ian Runkle out there. It's not a super common name, but it's happened a few times where I've had people come at me very aggressively and then cite me as, the authority without realizing who they're talking to. And sometimes you want to drop that hammer of, do you know who you're talking to? But it's always better if somebody else does it. It's always better.
I am.
Yeah, because if you go, do you know who you're talking? Do you know who I am? There's no way to do that. That doesn't sound like a complete douche. There just isn't. But if somebody else comes in and says like,
that's him.
that's always, it's a fun moment. But I haven't had any of that on the YouTube comments so far. There hasn't been anybody sort of aggressively wrong or even just, being a jerk or
No psychopathic conspiracy theories.
I mean, some conspiracy theories, but in some of this, it's kind of hard to find them to be too crazy.
You mean to tell me that shooting out east wasn't a false flag? Come on.
I don't buy the false flag on that one just because. I mean,
it's just incompetence. It's just incompetence.
Yeah.
I mean, what it looks like is that there may have been an informant thing, but we don't know, and we'll probably never know unless there's people under oath on that one, because we just won't get a straight answer. But at best, they knew this guy was screwy. Like, they had reports ahead of time that he was violent, that he was dangerous, that he had illegal guns. Firearms.
Yeah.
They actually had a warning out to police officers that he was a danger to police, and then that expired, and then they did nothing.
I find it super ironic that because he didn't have a gun license, they ostensibly couldn't get a warrant on his house. But if he'd had a gun license and all those complaints, they'd have had a warrant like that.
The thing is, from what has been reported, I don't see how they couldn't have gotten a warrant. I'd love, how do you not get a warrant on that? They've got,
how?
I saw some
incompetence.
I saw some people on Reddit saying, "Oh, but yeah, we have to protect the balance of freedom and security." I'm like, "Fuck off! If he had a gun license, he'd have been in there in a fucking snap of their goddamn fingers."
Here's the thing: I'm all for protecting people's rights and security and all of that, absolutely. But that's why we have a warrant process, so that you've got a judge who can look at this and say, "Hey, is there enough here to grant a warrant?" And, when you got eyewitnesses who say this guy's got guns, that he's been making threats, there's apparently indication that he was dealing in drugs and all of this stuff. There's why aren't they going and getting a warrant on somebody like that?
Because the drive is 2 hours long, man, and the detachment's got a new coffee machine, and you wouldn't believe how good the coffee is, man, okay?
And they wanted to try and cover it all up by not having a proper public inquiry. And Bill Blair basically admitted that by saying,
none of us are wearing tinfoil hats. We're going to take a moment, take a deep breath, take the hat off, take it off, take it off.
I can't. It's welded to my head now.
I've heard from people who are in a position to know, who I'm not going to give any details on, but I heard right afterwards, they basically said there's going to be a gun ban that's going to be rushed. And they want it to hit before the details come out on this, because they're bad.
Yeah.
And everything we've seen says that the details that are coming out on this are bad. But as always, one thing
what's the expression is never waste the
never let a good tragedy go to waste.
Yeah, never let a good tragedy go to waste. And on that note, Ian, aside from your videos on your new gun, did you do anything else gun related?
I've actually been kind of lazy. I need to get out to the range. Mostly that's been the primary things. The video is eating a huge amount of time.
Yes, it is.
Mostly because at this stage I'm still fairly awful at making them, and so once I hit the camera, it activates all of my anxiety, which has me tripping over myself in ways that I don't in court, and I'm not here. But it means a whole lot of re-recording. So to get a 10-minute video, I'm probably spending like 45 minutes just re-recording, because also triggers all my perfectionism. So, any misspeak or anything, I just start
from somebody that has about as much experience as a lazy hobbyist. You're doing good, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
I usually put in about 45 minutes to get a 10-minute video done.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting out. This really isn't something I'd planned. It's really sort of something unexpected, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go along. So if you see, my first video has a what is it? The preview image, which I've been told looks like a Jeopardy board. And
now I want to see this. Hold up.
I mean, honestly, they're not wrong. So
This
you
is
know, it's
amazing. I
just,
need to see this.
So, Adriel, does your 45 minutes include the time it takes you to change your T-shirts 3 times?
Three, you do me an injustice. I changed my t-shirt 6 times in that video. That was a high
I
But
priority
I don't
for
even
me.
remember which video that was. I
It
just remember you
totally
changed
looks like the Jeopardy board. I see the resemblance.
I think in one of my videos, I actually, because I made it on 2 different days, I went and recorded part of it in a different shirt. And then when I noticed that, I was like, I have to record either the second half over or the first half over.
Oh
'Cause
no,
I
man!
just
No.
Changed
Or-
shirt midway through.
Or you keep changing your shirt.
Yeah.
One
Every
day, I
single
hope,
jump cut, change your shirt.
Yeah.
one day it'd be nice to just be able to do a video in like one long continuous cut, but I don't see that.
Yeah, take it from somebody that has posted rants or like stream of consciousness things before. It just looks terrible. It does.
It
There
takes
is-
a long time, and
Yeah.
it takes like it's so bloated, and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like most stream of consciousness one shot take videos. I'd rather chop a bunch of like keep it dense, keep it.
You know who I
valuable.
saw that really did a good job? That guy that did the maple seed report.
Yeah,
He did that
Yep.
in one take, and he had his ducks in a row. And that goes a long way to making those one take videos a lot smoother. It's like even if you have like a piece of paper to look at every once in a while and go, shit, I'm talking about like magazine drops, and this video is about maple seed. Who gives a shit about this? Cut yourself off and go back to it. But yeah,
But
no,
I mean,
Ian,
prepping for
good
long
videos.
speeches is one of the things that you do as a lawyer. You might have an hour long closing speech, and you go and prep for that, and then you deliver it, and you can't midway through in front of a judge or jury say, "Well, I'm going to cut here, and then let's back up and splice this together later." So it should be something that I'm good at, and I don't have as much problem, in fact, in front of an actual judge or an actual court. It's just once the camera's on, I'm still super self-conscious. It's something that I'm actually, one of the things I actually find really useful about this is that I'm seeing all sorts of verbal tics that I have that maybe I should have worked on years ago.
Yeah.
The number of
You know-
times I go so or now.
So well, there I am using some of those than myself right now. Long time ago, years ago, I was at a job and I had a really pretentious boss, like a real smug guy, because he would always tell stories about himself and how great he was. But one of the things that he did mention that stuck with me was that he had attended a training camp or something like that called Toastmasters. You ever heard of that?
Toastmasters? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Toastmasters.
And
My wife
it is
actually did
a very, very, very simple thing. Like I could sum up what he took days and weeks to tell us. When like it is better to be silent for a fraction of a second, gather your thoughts and continue, than it is to linger and
Ramble.
repeat and stall for time with saying nonsense.
Yeah.
It's the pause. A pause does not make you sound idiotic. You're just gathering your thoughts.
The other one that trips up both witnesses and lawyers all the time is starting to talk before you know where you're going.
Mm.
And so often you'll see a witness who just blunders into something they shouldn't have said because their mouth has started moving before their brain has, or a lawyer who says something and gives away their case. And the court's not going to have a problem if you even say, I need a minute. Can I just sit and think? And I've done that. You sit and think in front of the court, and the court's fine with it. But if you open your mouth and say something stupid, now you own that.
That's a truth. That's a
So
truth.
maybe you should go and put a funny wig and a robe on your camera, and it'll make you a bit less nervous.
There's actually another guy on YouTube, and one of the people who actually made me think, well, maybe I could try doing this, and and his thing is he's always got a different hat, so
Hey,
that
everybody's got a shtick.
might work for him. But as much as I'm known at the courthouse for wearing hats, I don't think I want to steal another guy's shtick on the YouTube sphere. So
Yeah, this is a pretty small community. I don't think anybody's gonna go and call you out on it.
no, that's fair. But at the courthouse, I always liked wearing a hat because it made it really easy for when often you've got somebody who's never met you before and you're showing up to meet them at court. And I had actually another lawyer poach a client of mine. The guy had shown up with an envelope full of money to retain me. And the other lawyer was like, well, I'll take that and I'll help you out. And so after that, I always made sure, have something distinctive so that I can always say, I'm the guy with the hat. And then when there's somebody looking for me, they're not asking every lawyer, are you Ian Runkle? It's just, oh, there's the guy with the hat. I'll go to him. So that's
Tools of the trade. Look at that. Learning something new every day.
well, it's if you go and say, hey, I'm a white guy with gray hair, it's really not narrowing the field a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that's good. But now, Crazy, did you do anything
Yes.
gun related?
I have.
Ooh, what did you do? What did you do?
So we did some shooting with one of my clubs that does more like action shooting stuff, and we just did a bit to get kind of back into things, just some fast drills, nothing too particular. But then I was fucking around with my revolver, and I was thinking about the last time I went shooting, and I got like shit flung back at me and hit me like right under the eye. And so it tends to happen with me shooting 357. Now it happened a lot when I shot PMC. And I was told PMC's kind of shitty ammo that might do this, but then I was thinking like, it probably really shouldn't. And I asked on our revolver, and I'm like, hey, should I really be concerned about this, or is it shitty ammo? And everyone's like, no, that's really not. Even shitty ammo shouldn't be flinging shit back at you.
That
So I
sounds like
actually
something
went-
Adriel and I both said to you.
I don't know if I've brought this up before, but
You did.
before. So I went and actually inspected this and tried to look up ways to check your revolver's timing, and then I went and really inspected, and I noticed that on the top you're not going to be able to see it, but on the top by the forcing cone, there's a bit of lead residue coming onto the frame, and a bit of lead residue inside the forcing cone there. And when I tried checking timing, one trick I saw was to pull the thing like that so it's fully seated like that and shine a light in behind and see if you can see any darkness. And I was noticing a slight bit of darkness down at the bottom of each cylinder on 4 of the cylinders. So I'm
Buddy,
pretty sure this
you
thing's out of
should
time.
have just. Yeah, okay. I think I told you.
I'm
timing might have been
pretty
it.
sure we talked about forcing cone and like it shouldn't fling stuff and it might be hit
Yes,
there.
and I'm pretty sure that I said timing at some point. But I am glad that you went through this journey yourself. And
I
found
mean,
out
if
what
you
would happen.
did, it would have been like 3 years ago because that's when I bought this thing.
No,
And
no,
I
no.
don't think I've
no.
brought it up too much since then.
No, I'm pretty sure maybe if it wasn't last show, it was certainly the one before. We talked about this. And
So
we
it might have
said-
been last show because that would have probably been the last time I shot this, and I probably mentioned it. But yeah, I haven't shot it since then, actually, and I was just thinking about it, and that's when I went and checked. And yeah, now I got to figure out about Smith & Wesson's Canadian Warranty Center.
It used to
sending this
be
in.
a guy
It's-
out on Vancouver Island. Not anymore.
It's Gretsch Outdoors. I already looked this up
I am so sorry.
because I called Smith & Wesson like, yeah, you can send it back to us, and we'll take a look. And I'm like, I'm Canadian. They're like, oh, you have to call Gretsch.
So
Gotta love
could do
Canadian
that.
warranty
You could-
repair.
you could do that, or honestly, it might just be worth your time to eat the $300 and take it to a gunsmith and have him check the timing and reset it.
How do you set the timing on a revolver? What's involved with that?
You have to go into the guts and fuck around with a bunch of little levers and shit. That's the short version.
if I knew how to do it, I might think about doing it myself, but I don't.
Look,
From what I
I
understand,
have
that stuff you want somebody else doing, not.
yes, the issue with that is sequencing. You take that thing apart in a particular sequence. You get to you have to know what each part does and what can be causing the issue. And once that has been identified, you can alleviate or fix the issue of that part, but then you have to put the whole thing back together. And one of gunsmiths' most common jobs is, here's a bag of parts. Put my gun back together. So it's out there. The knowledge is out there. I know how to check a revolver timing because I'm anal about it, and I went and found a guide. And when I was buying a revolver through CGN, I told the guide, here's a guide. Check the revolver timing, and I'll buy it. And he's like, I checked it according to the guide, and it was good to go. And that's how I have peace of mind when doing a transaction with a used revolver online. And I can't verify the timing myself.
Brand new when I got it, and it's flung shit back at me ever since I bought it. Which is why I thought it was just PMC ammo shit, and it was a short barrel, and shit was flying back from the fucking barrel.
Yeah, no, fam. That's just not supposed to happen.
You shouldn't be getting lead in your teeth. That's not a good thing.
I didn't know if it was lead or unburnt carbon, is why I wasn't sure.
Yes,
now
the answer is yes, and you shouldn't be getting either in.
Yeah, so now I'm going to be calling Gretch at some point and being like, yo, I got a fucked up gun, and you're the warranty center, so what do we do here?
Like I said,
you mail it to them, and you wait.
You mail it to them and you wait, and they might tell you that it's under warranty. They might tell you it's another $300 to fix the parts, blah, 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 blah. Or you might want to just eat it and take it to a gunsmith.
From what I understand, Smith & Wesson's usually fairly decent with their warranty. Ruger is even more so. When I sent my Ruger out to get the ball bearings pinned back in, I bought it used. I told them I bought it used, and they still covered it.
Nice.
So hopefully this will be no real big problem, because their warranty is kind of like, technically it's 1 year, but in reality we'll just fix it as long as you're the original owner.
I could talk some shit out of my ass and tell you it's the hand or the cylinder stop or something in there or whatever, but honestly, like I said, you could eat the $300 and get the gunsmith to do it.
I'm gonna try sending it to Gretch, because if they say it's not under warranty, then I'll be paying them the $300 anyways.
Yeah.
But at least then there's a potential that I get it done for free.
It's the price of convenience. Doing it now, doing it later, but whatever.
Yep. Well, either way, there's no gunsmiths in Southern Ontario that are gonna take this thing and be done any faster than Gretch.
I am sorry to hear that.
Not a damn one. The only one I even know of doesn't even take new fucking customers because they're so fucking busy.
This is going to show my knowledge of Ontarian geography, but is Epps near you? Because I hear those guys are pretty good.
Epps is where I bought this from, and my cottage is not too far from there. So they are a possibility, but I have no idea how fucking busy they are for their gunsmith, because every gunsmith in Ontario is fucking slammed all the time.
Yep.
Like the nearest one to me that I know of is Precision Arms and King, and they're the ones that I heard just do not take new clients because they have so much fucking backlog to deal with.
Damn.
Yeah, it's like that all over the place. There's more business than there are gunsmiths, and
I don't even know how you become a gunsmith. There's
courses for it.
There's courses, and then there is. I worked at the shop for 5 years, and then the guy is letting me touch the lathes now.
That's the thing, is I've never heard of any gunsmith training in Canada. I've heard of it in Norway and in America.
I'm pretty sure.
But I've never heard of it here.
Edmonton's got a college that does gunsmithing.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a course in there. Like, you probably take your general like machining and machine work and that kind of thing, because like the hardest jobs would be, I've got this ancient gun, I need you to fab apart, and that's probably like the hardest things could.
Just look at what is it? It's not Primer, it's Anvil's gunsmithing on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Most of his videos are, this is broke, I need to make something.
Yeah. And I mean, the rest of it would be like, if you're mechanically good, I'd imagine there's a lot of it that you could learn on your own. It's not rocket science.
Like I said, it's like I've been working at the shop for 5 years now. The guy's letting me touch the lathes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically it, I think.
So the other thing I did is I took my Mauser out and my SVT, and I bought a new. I just muted this tab by accident. I bought a new plate of steel that was 10-inch plate, and I figure I'll throw it up at 200 yards and see if I can hit it. Couldn't hit it. Where the damn? So I bring it into the 100 yards, and with the SVT, I was hitting 3 out of 5, which is good considering it was white and the background was sand, and it just disappeared.
How big's the plate?
But the Mauser, I have
10
shot.
inch.
Yeah, 10-inch. But the Mauser, I had shot on a 5-inch plate the previous week and was hitting with some hand loads I had. I brought it out with factory loads from PPU, and I couldn't fucking hit the target worth a goddamn. I had no idea where in the fuck they were going. I could not tell at all. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I sighted this fucking thingy and it was just about 2 inches high at 100. And now I'm at 100 and I can't fucking tell where in the shit this is fucking going. So now I'm kind of pissed off at that, and I'm gonna go into 50 and see what the fuck's up with it. But
Honestly, it's just the ammo, man. At this from what you just said, it's just the ammo.
well, I don't even know if it's just the ammo or what. Like it's fucking.
I mean, aside from you leaving the gun behind your car and running it over and bending the barrel, nothing's changed here. It's gotta be the ammo.
That's why I just gotta see like where the fuck is it going. Even then, like if I don't have something solid to aim at with that gun, especially,
those
it's
things
all over
usually
the
have
fucking
like
place.
those things have like a battle zero and like a 100-yard zero, right?
The one I got, I had to change the sight and re-zero it because it was zeroed like a foot high. So I did re-zero it, and when I re-zeroed it, what I did is I had up a green piece of paper and then orange paper behind it to give me something very like distinct to aim at. And I find if I don't do that, especially with the Mauser, I was just all over the fucking place, couldn't tell what I was doing unless I had that solid like contrasting thing to aim at, and then I could get like fantastic groups.
The other thing that people do is they dial it for a little bit further than they're shooting. So if you're shooting at 200, you dial it for 300 or 400, and then you do a 6 o'clock hold underneath.
Yeah, well, given that I already knew that when I sighted this, it was maybe about 2 inches high, I was already trying to do about a 6 o'clock and was just fucking nowhere.
It's handy if you've got someone to spot for you, because then like if someone can spot hits on dirt or something like that, that makes a big difference.
Eventually,
saying,
you're iron
because you could be like a foot high. If you changed ammo, was it drastically different powder charge or bullet weight?
It was a heavier bullet compared to the previous one. My previous one, it was a 170 grain Hornady with about I think 44 grains of 48.95. And this one is just factory PPU 196 grain full metal jacket.
That's gonna give you a bit different.
That's
POI.
different. That's different enough.
Because I did get a spotter, and I think they said I was shooting high, which was, they said, I think they said one time high, but a bunch of the other times they said low. I don't fucking even remember now. But then they had a target up that was like the like MOA with the circle in the middle that you hit it and it swings. I took a shot at that, aiming it in, and I fucking punched right in the goddamn middle the one shot, and I'm like, I don't fucking know what the hell's going on
Pretty
here.
sure I just swallowed a bug in my beer.
Oh, fantastic. But yeah, so I was gonna go to 50 and see what the fuck my groups are doing when I can actually like aim at the target better, and then try going back to 100 and see what the fuck is going on, because I bought a fuck ton of that shit from Tenda.
You could, you just get good.
Well,
that is the intention of going into 50 is the start of getting good.
Getting some confidence going, like seeing your groups on paper. Oh, it is on. Okay, I don't have to I don't have to like hold low, hold high. Like you get that doubt going in your head, and you're gonna start screwing with things that aren't the problem, and you're gonna make it even harder to figure out what the problem is.
So I just need to get it out of my head that I know what I'm doing and realize that I don't, and get back down to the lower thing and learn what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
With the SVT, it was fun. I only use factory because the surplus I have is Chinese dog shit, and it won't hit a fucking goddamn thing with that.
Well, you're using an SVT. You're already like.
I love an SVT.
When I put factory,
they're cool, but it's like good lord, man, that thing like the brake on them, it shits brass in your face sometimes.
Only because you're left-handed.
Oh, right.
I mean, the rest of us aren't disabled, so we don't have that problem.
Hey, I'm not left-handed. Cross-eye dominant. Actually, I'm not even cross-eye dominant. I just got a good left eye. Whatever. Keep going.
Wear glasses.
Fuck you.
So, anyways, like I fucking with that thing, I was having like no real problems. I was hitting, like I said, 3 out of 5 on that target, which is what I was doing with my dad's SKS the previous week on the smaller target. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I expected I was going to be doing. It's not every shot, but most of them. And I was doing it with the SVT with its crappy sights and inability to see the target and just
I don't mind the
factory
sights on the
ammo.
SVT. They're just your run-of-the-mill notch and post.
See, another thing I was meaning to do with the Mauser is paint the front sight pink. And I tried that on the
Yes.
SVT once,
Oh,
and the muzzle brake on that blew
no.
all the paint off the fucking sight.
No, don't paint your Mauser pink. Don't put a pink front sight on that, please.
The front
Hey,
sight's not original.
I took a genuine Belgian 30-06 surplus Mauser, and I put a little dab of paint on the front sight because that helped a lot.
Pink nail
It does.
polish.
Yeah, nail polish.
It'll probably come off if you really need to.
Exactly. But
No,
like, the thing is,
no,
that's not
no.
an original front sight. I put a replacement front sight from Brownells on that Mauser
And it's
anyways.
not a-
Where's
It's
this?
not a My Little,
Where's
it's
this?
not a My
where's
Little
this?
Pony paint job either.
No, exactly. I'm not going to fucking Bubba paint my fucking Mauser fucking
Oh, you
Hello
could.
Kitty ass anime.
You
shit.
could.
I'm going to say that for when ARs are legalized again and do that to an AR.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Speaking
I
about ARs, hey Adriel, are you
Wait.
done by the way? Crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I was just gonna flaunt my evil prohibited weapon again because it's registered. So what the fuck am I gonna do hiding it? I have this. Fuck you, Trudeau.
I've got
I
one
hate
of those I haven't ever gotten to fire. I bought it, and then COVID hit, and so can't do anything. The ranges were shut down, and
Your ranges were shut down.
Yeah,
Mine
ranges were
was
shut
too.
down.
Oh.
And then just as they're opening up again, ban.
Yeah, the timeline sucked.
Yeah, it was just such a kick in the face, and at least it's a new purchase. So if they come after me and say, "Hey, we want to buy it back," it'll be like, "Hey, well, here's the receipt.
hmm
Here's what it costs." That's what it'll. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's still that's
We
still
don't know.
such a sore
Yeah.
point.
everybody's bitter, but this beer is bitter.
Well, I got myself 3 drinks out just for increasing levels of how depressing things are. So I've moved on to the beer, but I've got gin and tonic to if it's
Ooh,
another step up.
fancy. We're fancy in here. Gin
If it gets
tonic.
really depressing, I can just break out the gin. Straight gin is a great depressing drink.
Might be. Who knows what kind of night this will turn out to be? Adriel, why don't you bring out something nice and depressing?
Is PC light depressing? No, that's nice. That's keeping your figure trim for the COVID weight. It's not working.
No, it ain't. No, it ain't.
No, it's
This
not
shirt
working
does
for me.
exactly show that.
I'm wearing a very comfortable shirt myself here. I've just been monkeying around. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but I've been monkeying around. I just checked my receipt. I got these things a year and 4 months ago, and the warranty is a year. Oh, one of the ear cups isn't working. But I took a look inside. It looks very simple. There's the wires for the speaker. There's the wires for the mic. I'm a computer engineer. I can figure this shit out. I already found like a speaker and mic that I'm gonna substitute test on this until I figure out what's wrong, and it'll be back up and running.
So about earmuffs, have you guys tried wearing masks that go around your ears with the earmuffs?
It'll be fine.
Because I was having to do that at my range, and I was actually finding it was breaking the seal more than my glasses do, to the
Oh,
point where it
really?
was uncomfortable to be around the gunfire.
Huh.
Do
I took
you?
the
I guess it depends on the earmuff, because I have some. Well, actually, did you have electronic ear protection or was it just
Electronic
earmuffs?
ear protection, they're
Okay,
Allen
yeah.
brand.
See, sometimes those do have thin cups, but I have like
They
these freaking gigantic Browning earmuffs that look like air controller earmuffs.
Well, and the other
And-
thing that you can do is like a traditional cup will be like made of foam, and they don't really seal well.
Mhm.
You can get a gel cup, and these gel cups, these silicone gel ones, like they seal incredibly good around anything that goes around, and they don't pinch on your head and give you headaches.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. That kind of looks like a sex toy. Just saying.
Just,
Yep.
oh.
I mean, I just took the mask off and maintained.
Now you're never
social
not gonna see
distance.
that. Now you're never not gonna see that.
But it was just I figured it was just weird that I noticed that enough that it was starting to make me uncomfortable having the mask coming out, because it was like the two things on either side of
So
fucking whatever.
so
and
so
yeah.
everybody's real hard about eyes and ears, but like Adriel is familiar with safety squints before, and like if I'm by myself in the range, it's earplugs and my sunglasses. If it's like indoors, it's earplugs, earmuffs, and safety glasses. But you have your glasses, you have to wear those. I would say like dish out the dough for like those custom earplugs and just forget about
I
everything.
really hate the sensation of earplugs in my ears, and that's why I
Well,
tend to wear
then
earmuffs.
you're screwed. Adriel.
Yeah, or I just don't wear a mask.
I always just double up. I do the ear defenders and the earmuffs because I can't afford to go deaf. It's just not not good. But
Oh,
glasses mess with the seal.
so
Yeah.
small aside, I have been like religious about my ear health for years as a shooter. 1 year of having a little baby, and I swear to fucking God, I have tinnitus. Adriel, go.
That's just the PTSD. That has nothing to do with your ears.
Even wearing ear defenders
That's
when
mental.
dealing with the
It's
baby.
all up here. There's nothing
Hey
wrong
man,
with
for
your
the first
ears.
couple of months, I did have like a pair of earmuffs on his freaking door.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I primarily use my earmuffs for Maple Seed, and most of the shooters at Maple Seed are running 22s. So running electronic muffs is really nice because you don't get any hearing damage, and you can hear exactly what's going on in the range. So these are really nice for a 3-gun. I don't bother wearing them because I don't ever get a good enough seal with safety glasses and with running a rifle and getting your cheek down. I always find I break the seal. What's the point? So I usually run earplugs for 3-gun, and I don't bother with the ear muffs. Just because,
do you,
like,
but do you insert them correctly? But do you roll them with your fingers and reach over with your opposite hand and
they're
pull
like,
your back?
touching my eardrum. They're like way in there, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like as like that will give you like 34 decibels. Like this is an expensive pair. These do 20.
Yep.
It's practically nothing compared to those earplugs, and that's like a logarithmic scale. So earplugs are just that much better. And if you want like really good hearing protection, those are really good. And if you want more, double up. Anyways, I've been doing a bunch of Maple Seeds. I think I did 4 so far in Alberta here, and this weekend I've got a 3-gun match on Saturday and a Maple Seed on Sunday. And my 3-gun match, I'm going to run a WK for my rifle. I'm going to run my
Just
Shadow
gonna ask,
2.
what were you gonna use?
I've got my WK geared up to be my 3-gun rifle now, so I've got my red dot, my fancy dancy aimpoint red dot on there.
Ooh, look at you, Mr. Aimpoint.
You know, the nice thing about those is that you crank them on and you just leave them on for years. You never turn them off. And it's not like, there's no like, ooh, it's smart. It can tell when you move it. No. It's just on the whole time. It's just like the battery's good for 3 years at like level 7.
How much do you believe Hollow Sun when they claim that they get the same kind of battery life for like a third of the cost?
I do, because like so I guess the thing to consider is they use Shake Awake for that, because when it's off or when it's laying down and still, it actually turns the red dot off. So that's I think it's possible. I think you can get like 50,000 hours or 100,000 hours of battery life out of one of those things, because Aimpoint can, and they leave the stupid dot on the whole time. that's like a real caveman way of approaching it. Just leave it on. Because I think
If
the
it ain't
Comp
broke, don't fix
M4,
it. If it stays on, it stays on.
yeah, the Comp M4 is good for I think 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, but then you have to consider Aimpoint, the Aimpoint money price point, and there are some people out there that are like, I will use my 7 scope for everything, and all the best to them, but.
I mean, when you get a Hollow Sun with solar panels on the top for $400 that functionally last forever if you're outdoors.
Yeah.
But,
well,
I mean, I'm going to. I ordered a Hollow Sun actually. I've got a Hollow Sun 407. It's their pistol red dot sight, and I'm gonna pop one of those on this guy here.
Ooh, you gonna JB weld that bad boy on?
No, I think I'm gonna have it machined in there, but it's.
Fine, do it the right way.
Yeah. But
to be optimistic, when we're allowed ARs again, I'm gonna buy a 7.5-inch lower or upper and put a Hollow Sun 512 on it.
Oh, You are a very optimistic person.
Hey, all we can do is smile and hope for the best.
I mean,
Super
keep your
fucking
parts.
optimistic.
Keep your parts,
So
but like
optimistic.
it's gonna be a different AR. It's gonna be a different AR. You're gonna be mounting that red dot on. Anyways, I got a 407 in the mail. What else did I got in the mail? Oh, 6.5 Creedmoor, Remington 783 heavy barrel, and 6.5 Creedmoor. Got one of those coming.
But will it be rusty though?
I think
Yes.
they
The answer is
they
yes.
come pre-rusted, so yes, yeah,
Oh,
it will be
okay.
it'll be rusty. No warranty probably because Remington's going into bankruptcy proceedings again. Yeah.
Again.
But it's Remington. The Maple Seeds have been going well. 3 guns have been going well. Oh, I ran my Shadow 2 with a bunch of that cheap 115 grain Federal aluminum cased ammunition. It's fine. It's
See,
reliable.
my dad's Shadow was not liking that shit at all. Mine and my mom's have no problem with it at all. So
I
don't know
ran.
what the fuck.
I wanted to make sure it was reliable because I want to win, and I ran 250 rounds through it, and it did zero malfunctions, zero,
And it's cheap,
and it's
isn't it?
cheap. Yeah, I got 2,000 rounds of that stuff. Yeah, so that was good. Oh geez, I should probably oil my shotgun before I bring it out because it's been a while since I've run that.
Yes.
WK
Everybody,
I got out.
That's
I
the
shot
thing
that.
everybody gets caught with. I've heard. It's just their shotgun. It's like, oh yeah, it's fine, and then they don't clean it. 2 matches go by, and then what's this? It's a pump action. It's a manual action now.
There's some shotguns that are more apt to failing like that. There's some shotguns, the gas operated ones, like if you run 1,000 rounds through those, you have to clean the gas piston. They're like, you will start getting jams with them.
Now, what about the ones where the gas piston is like the Remington / Benelli, where it's right up at the front there and fucking super
The
short?
advantage
and all
with
that?
those is that those are a self-cleaning piston, so those
Yes,
will
they
work
are.
better. Those will work better for that and last longer.
But you will. I noticed this with my Versamax. Is that the pistons were rattling free completely, but the carrier and the bolt get gummed up.
Yeah.
So that's the point that you have to tear out.
Yeah, you might have to clean those. Like my shotgun is an A5, which is an inertial one, so it just uses the inertia of it to recoil. So it doesn't get super gunky, and you probably could run it for thousands of rounds. I still clean it and keep it well oiled because, again, I don't want to lose. It's not even losing. I don't want my gun to be the thing that's keeping me from the best match I had.
Doesn't
the best match I
Browning have
could
a
have.
50,000 round warranty on that thing or some stupid like that?
I don't think they warranty when you take it out of the plastic and you hit it with a grinder to like get a loading port in there. I don't think they cover that. No.
Speed holes.
You never know. Just don't tell them about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you say, like the bolt's being funny. Just send them the bolts. Where's the rest of the gun? Don't worry about the gun. And then you bolt.
Don't worry about the gun. The bolt's funny.
Yeah, and then the other thing I did was I pulled this guy out to the range and
Wah, wah.
had some fun with it. So
Wah,
this
wah.
is what you're going to be doing with your AR when the horse police take your upper and lower, and you're like, what am I going to do with all this other stuff? Well, that's one of your options. This is the Spectre Ballistics LPC, not related at all to the Liberal Party of Canada. And
No, we don't know that.
Is a straight pull action on it, and takes all your AR parts.
See, I still
straight
don't know
pull.
why. I think both them and Maple Ridge Armory, neither of them went with a spring assist close.
No,
I don't know.
no. Maple Ridge
did
They
go
did?
with a spring. Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
did.
yeah. Now, I mean that was a choice on their part. There's a choice on these guys' part not to put it in as well.
Yeah, no.
because they wanted to
Tristan was
say-
like, I am not
I-
touching a spring assist. I'm
Yeah.
not.
I heard that, but to me the spring assist makes so much more sense.
So I don't know if you saw the video that I did shooting this thing. I don't know how much time you're saving because you have to bring your hand up anyways, and then I don't know. Yeah, I guess like if you pulled back and then just let go, you'd move your hand up forward anyways.
I suppose it could depend on the kind of shooting
I
you're
don't
doing. Like if you're trying to go for action shooting with it, then it really doesn't matter. But if you're on the bench where you're not really using this hand anyways, or if you're resting this hand back here on the bench, then you want to have it up and then just let it go and get it right back in there again. And that's where it could get some time advantage.
If you were pulling this hand back and then pulling it right down, and you were using a spring to push it forward, yes. Off the bench, it would be faster with a spring assist. if you're going back up to the forend, or you're keeping your hand on it so that you can do it like real quick, close in kind of stuff. Same thing.
You know what I was thinking? You know what that badly needs? Just somebody to make a 3D printer doohickey with some rails, slap that on the handguard, and just make a pump.
Now you got the Troy PAR.
I know, but those things are going for stupid money on CGN.
Oh, stupid money. Now the thing is with that, like I had a Troy PAR, and I found the accuracy with it. With some, I found one ammo it liked, and I found a bunch of ammo. It was terrible with it. Terrible. Like 6-inch groups at 100 meters. And when you get behind like this was one in 308. When you get behind a 308 and you look in the scope and you fire and you look at it and you're like, what is this gun doing? When you see like
what was it, like a bad barrel, a funny barrel twist? What was it?
No, I've seen a lot of them that do that. They're very super duper picky on ammo.
That's
like it's not a
weird.
free floated barrel, right? It's not a free floated barrel. There's lots of stuff going on up front. So I don't know what to tell you. It's
well that you know, like
right?
my little Duda that would be free floated. You know, just 3D print that.
Actually,
whole thing.
let me think about that. Is the Troy PAR barrel free floated? Actually, I can't say that it isn't free floated. I don't know. I do know you can replace the barrel in the Troy PAR with a regular AR barrel.
You can or
so
can't.
it must not be free. It must be free floated. Sorry, rather.
It's ridiculous that kind of shit accuracy with so many brands, though. I'd expect like 1 or 2 brands, maybe, but like for it to be the general case that this gun is dog shit, unless you get like fucking like Hornady AMAX or some crap like that.
You know
like,
what? The only interaction that I had with that gun is I think I watched the Nut and Fancy video on it, and I was like,
you know, it wasn't even the ammo that it liked was some weird PMC stuff that had like a step down bullet, like their 150 grain stuff.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was real weird, and it loved it. It was like, 1 inch at 100 yards. Okay, good. It can do it. It's just so weird.
I mean, that's gotta be something in the barrel or the bolt or something, because it's a manual action. Like, why?
Well, there's inaccurate manual actions. If you're going to say like what kind of manual action would probably be the worst for accuracy, I'd say a pump action. A pump action or a lever action rifle would be the worst for accuracy.
The lever action has an inherent issue if it's a tube fed mag.
Yeah,
you know about the tube fed. That, like,
well, I mean,
technically
they're just not an accurate setup in terms of
because the way in tube actions the weight of the rounds actually drags down the barrel and can impact your point of impact.
Yeah.
Well, and also just the action of cycling it is going to manipulate where it's going. It's very hard to keep it on point as you're doing that.
Yeah.
But like I know with like the Browning bar, for example, they made a very distinct point of basically having a bolt action bolt in a lever action rifle to improve accuracy. And I don't see why you couldn't do that with a pump action that's properly free floated and get bolt action accuracy out of a pump action gun.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something that they've improved on new ones, but I know that the 308s I've shot weren't very good. Actually, Matthew from Slamfire Radio, he had one in 223. Similar idea with him. He had to reload some 77 grain stuff for his 223 to get any form of accuracy out of it.
What the fuck?
Yeah. 77.
Yeah.
That's
Whereas like
heavy as fuck.
I took my that WK out and I shot some 55 grain like federal garbage ammo, and I got like a 1-inch group at 50 with a red dot, mind you, right? Which is like that's fine. That's like
that's
good
fine.
To go for
that's good.
Yep. Don't need to screw around with like doesn't like the federal ones, but I'm gonna have to try. Well, actually, it did have a problem with some federal independents, but never mind that.
Yeah.
Although I think now that I think about it, the worst would probably have to be the screw action I saw on somebody's homemade firearm, where you literally had to unscrew the end to pull out the.
Wait, that's not a homemade. That's not a homemade
50 cal?
action. Ian, there was was it the Serbu?
Yeah.
Serbu. The Serbu had a freaking screw 50 cal.
Basically,
yeah, this one was
bomb.
just somebody's handmade, piece of garbage that you had to unscrew and then reload.
No. That is showing. That's just standing up to the man, right? Yeah, it's standing up to the man.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much.
Seeing a dude make YouTube videos about his slam fire fucking shotgun he made.
Oh, was that the one
In
that
Canada.
in half of the videos the guy's like wearing armor because he knows the thing's gonna blow up?
I don't even think it was that. It was just some random Canadian dude. Like, yeah, in Canada you could do this as long as you got a non-restricted license. And he just, boom,
Well,
takes
he's
the
not
tube back
wrong.
out, takes the shell out, loads it in, boom.
I'm actually looking
That's
into getting a
hilarious.
business license for, amongst other things, basically trying to do some firearm consulting to other lawyers. But so I'm asking for permission to manufacture, import, and various other things, including prohibited firearms.
Ooh.
I don't think the CFO is going to be terribly thrilled by this, but making the application. But one of the
Hey,
things they
man.
plan to do is build a little box for test firing. That should be something that, in theory, one of these improvised firearms can explode in without any problems. Because it happens. I mean, right now, any gun that goes for testing has to get sent out east. And I understand that the reason for that is it's an officer injured his hand, basically doing the test it in the woods method with somebody's improvised firearm. Like just take it out back and shoot it at a tree stump. And boom, that
Sorry.
went up. So
I should
Didn't
not be
Kenny
laughing.
say that he's investing a bunch of money?
Yeah,
in
no,
opening an Alberta
they're
firearms
gonna
line?
make it so that there is a testing site in Calgary.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think.
I think there already is. There already is one. They're just going to expand it and use it like cross province.
Oh right, yeah.
yeah, that'll be a big change because right now they lose a lot of gun files on the basis of being unable to get the gun tested in time for trial. So you walk into trial and it's like, well, we sent the gun out east. It's not back yet, and we don't know if it shoots. Good luck proving that.
Yeah.
But what like it surprises me that the cops would be using the woods method without like a string and like a C clamp.
They're not allowed to anymore. I understand. Not allowed to use the woods method at all. But go
why
back
would,
and
like if you're shooting Billy Bob's homemade handgun, why the hell would you hold it in your hand?
back in the day, that would be the thing. Is you get this gun, you want to know what to if it actually fires, load it up and shoot a few rounds into a tree stump.
Man,
Seems foolproof.
Yeah, well, I understand it went
C-clamps
bad.
are
so we
cheap.
got-
Fingers are
not to.
expensive.
Yeah, string seems cheaper to me, but it's easier to get more string than it is to get more fingers.
Well, why don't we? Wait. Have we all gone?
No,
No.
thanks, Adriel.
Go. Hurry up. It's taking so long.
I signed up for a course thing. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, like maple bead, maple cleat, maple seed. That's the name of it. You've heard about that, right, Adriel?
Yeah, I've heard of
Yeah.
them. I was gonna go.
So this is what I was planning on using. CSET 452 American. The American designation means that it has an 11mm dovetail and no sights on the barrel, except this is a 3/8 dovetail, like the European.
You already got that
CSET?
backwards. 3/8 is American, 11mm European.
Okay, there you go.
I've got
And
the Lux. It's a good gun.
no, they're fantastic guns. Like this thing using CCI standard velocity. It's like half-inch groups at 100 yards all day. It's
First
it's
gun
gross.
I ever bought, and I haven't regretted it.
And then I got talking to Adriel because he's like, you know something about maple seed, right, Adriel? Something.
Yeah.
Something. And he goes like, yeah, like you can use the bolt. There's also the semi-autos. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go look for that. So I went down that route, and I kept looking and looking and looking. And Crazy knows about this. A while back, I owned a CSET 512, which is CSET's semi-auto 22. Their usual models are two. There's a 20-inch wood stocked with sights that I owned, but the barrel was long because it's a 20-inch barrel, and if you didn't know, ballistically speaking, you don't need more than 16 inches for a 22 long rifle before it starts slowing in the bore. And then they have the tactical version, which is literally imagine a 1022 in a body kit. It's basically that, but it has a 16-inch barrel. And for a while, I looked at getting that 16-inch barrel put into a 20-inch barrel model, and I gave up because reasons. But when I was searching for the maple seed gun, I found completely by accident that CSED had made a 512 carbine, which is the 20-inch barrel model with a slightly different pattern stock that has a higher cone for optics. It's got black wood stocks, wood furniture instead of the usual blonde, and it's a 16-inch barrel, and it's $800. So I had to make a decision, and sadly, the dingus CSED Model 41 had to go. So
Smith &
this has
Wesson
been
Model
sold.
41, you mean?
Hmm?
Smith & Wesson Model 41?
Yeah, Smith & Wesson Model 41. So this guy with its ginormous 8-inch barrel and muscle brake compensator has been sold to a gentleman from High River who is very happy but busy and therefore cannot pick it up until next week. So yeah, I sold that, which gave me funds to buy the most expensive 22 semi-auto out there that's not like a custom gun.
Or an
But-
Unschutz,
Some 1022
because
of some
the
sort.
Unschutz are going to be more expensive.
But we're talking Unschutz. It's not the same thing, man.
Does Anschutz have a semi-auto?
Yes.
Don't they?
Didn't you review one?
Not a semi-auto.
Yeah, I think you
Bolt.
did.
Oh, well, that's not a real Anschutz. That stupid thing. That's that was like an
But no, I'm
ISSC
pretty sure
with-
they've got normal ass semi-autos because there's got to be some divisions that allow it for some of this stupid shit.
Yeah, but basically, I was talking with Kleeman from back in the day. You might remember him, and he said, "Yeah, that's basically the cost of fine-tuning a 1022. Like if you take a basic bitch 1022, free flow the barrel, get like a nice stock, get a nice barrel, get a nice trigger, you're at $800. This thing, there's an asterisk attached to it because I found exactly one forum post talking about the CSED 512 carbine. These things are nowhere on the internet. There is no video of it. There are only pictures of the model with sights because I ended up finding, out of all places, Prophet River had these guns in stock. The Model 512 carbine American, which has no sights on the barrel, and they had like 10 of these things. So I have one in the way. It should shoot really well because that 512 that I had before, the only reason that I sold it was because the barrel was a little long and the balance was a little off. This thing has a higher cone, which should be better for the scopes, and it's got the short barrel, and it's threaded for suppressors, it says on the page.
That's handy.
That's handy. I am considering, if it doesn't throw the balance too much, putting one of those fake cans on it just for shits and giggles.
Fuck yeah, they still have it on their website, the 512 fucking carbine.
Do they
Yeah,
have,
I told you.
What are the mags like? Like they're not
It's
flush
the
fit,
extended. It's the extended fucking 25 round.
So,
They're showing
what
in the
else do they
picture.
have?
So the bolt actions usually come with either a 5 or a 10 round mag. The CSED, the carbine, the 512 carbine with sights comes with a 10 round mag. The American comes with a 25 round banana mag. So I will have a 25 round banana mag, but I won't be using it for maple seed. I have two 10 round mags that don't fit flush, but don't stick out that much.
Yeah.
And I will also be
Should've
bringing the
just-
5 round mags for flush. If I can just use the flush, I'll use the flush.
You should have just got a GSG fucking 16, the 110 round drum mag, and the Delask fucking 9-inch barrel on it. Take that out to Maple Seed.
I had that gun. I didn't have the 110 round mag. I considered the barrel, and then I just sold it to my buddy who was gonna do.
Did
Gotta
Crover
use
just
somewhere.
die for anyone else?
Yep.
Rip
He
and
does that.
pepperoni.
He does that, ripperoni. Is that all our gun stuff?
I think so, unless he comes back with something. Was he the one streaming, or were you starting the stream?
I'm streaming. His connection
Okay.
is never reliable enough to stream. His wife turns on the microwave. It's like, oh, there goes the stream. Yeah. No. So one of the things I think we're going to talk about is some of the legalese Now, I don't have any personally any questions, but was there did Crover talk topics with you, Ian?
Not really. I can look over what I got, but not
We
a
have
whole
a-
lot.
We
Nothing
have
I
a
don't
real
think.
lawyer with real expertise, and not just me with uneducated opinions.
You read a lot. You got some education going there.
I mean, the thing is gun owners almost, well, lots of them at least, have a fairly good knowledge of the law just because you have to. You know, you're stepping into this area where anything you screw up, you can go to jail or lose, in some cases, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property. So, whereas I talk to non-gun owners, and usually what they have to say about Canadian gun laws is just completely, it's crazy in a lot of cases.
When people at my university found out I had a gun license, the response is usually, "Oh, well, that's cool. So, do you need a license for that?" Like when I told them I worked at a gun shop, "Do you need a license for that?"
Well,
Yeah.
I've had people, I tell them I have a firearm license and so forth, and they say, "You don't have it on you, do you?" And I'm going, "Oh, wow, you really don't know the Canadian gun laws at all." Like, "Oh, yeah, no, I got 2 or 3 on me right now, because it's that easy to get an ATC."
Don't I wish?
Yeah, well, it's, but I mean, they just don't know, right? I've heard people, well, we had the Liberal Party in their last election, and I try not to be too political, but oh man, do they just give me a headache with the stuff they put out. People are going to be taking this to the supermarket. Well, no, they're not. Like, that's not what the new law amounted
God,
to.
I remember that Trudeau was like, "Oh, people can bring a handgun to Canadian Tire or the hockey arena now." Fuck
Yeah.
no, they can't.
I mean, like, as long as everyone wears their masks, everything will be fine. You don't need to take it out.
How big would I need to make my pants in order to fit this down?
Oh,
Can
well,
you hear me? Hello, I'm here.
Yes,
You're
can
back.
Hear you now,
No, we
Grover.
can't hear
Welcome
you
back.
at all.
Great, awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing Maple Seed. Are you teaching that, Adriel? Is the one in September?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
am.
got 3 of my
I
friends
am
to. I mean, 2
Maple
of my
Seed,
other friends to
Alberta.
sign up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick's
so-
probably going to be coming through. He's one of the founders, so he'll probably be at that one as well. Yeah, I'm actually looking at trying to get another one that week, either at BTSA or maybe Drumheller or something like that.
Okay.
I'd love to
Um,
start taking some courses, except right now my work schedule is all over the place. So you can't sign up for anything that regular people are signed up for, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is literally all day on Tuesday, so it's like you're probably not gonna be able to make that.
Most of the other ones are on weekends, but like all the Chaz ones are full. I think some of the Sherwood Park ones are still open. And I might add some more just in case I feel bored. Not that I will, because I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to try to make it out to one of the 3-gun things out at Chaz. I've been meaning to do that since forever, and I finally had the set. And then, of course, Trudeau banned the 3rd gun.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to go see about picking up some other semi-automatic rifle that hasn't been banned yet. And
Get a
I
Ruger
assume
PC
there's-
carbine.
You could. We have we've got a couple of new divisions at Chaz 3 gun. We've got PCC. We've got Pea Shooter, which is 22 rifle, and then we've got Clipazine, which is like garbage, like SKS, some sort of clip fed something or other.
Do you
Be
include
entertaining.
high points in the garbage?
It's mostly going to be milsurps, mostly guys running SKSs and that kind of thing. So, and the whole point is that most people were running ARs for 3 gun.
Yeah.
Now they can't. So we're allowing lots of other firearms in a division where they can compete with similar competitors or just run a 22. So
yeah, Trudeau's not going to ban the politically correct carbine or any of the guns from his glorious Chinese overlords. So get a Type 97.
Take your goddamn tinfoil hat off.
Yeah, you could get a bullpup, but bullpups are not fantastic for competition either. Or you could
Hey,
get a
RDB is
WK
okay.
or-
It's not
Yeah, it
much
was-
else left.
I had been looking at the Tavor, but
The nice thing with the Tavor is, like, for dollar wise, it's the highest quality, like, competition firearm. it's not the gamiest competition firearm.
Like the only problem with that would the only asterisk I would give with that is the fact that the trigger is garbage out of the box.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, so I guess to better say it, the Tavor is the most reliable gun you're going to get in a 223 with AR mags that is durable and reliable.
Don't you like the Bushmaster 17s?
The ACRs are no longer being made.
So no. The bullpup. I said.
Oh, the M17.
Yeah.
Those are hard to get. Those are hard to find as well, and it's a bullpup. I don't know. Like
I thought we were talking about bullpup pups, but the ACRs. You're paying like $4,000 for those now in CGN, but you could. You could.
What was that, Ian?
Maybe I could drag this thing out with the revolving action.
Do it.
Well,
time on that.
I'm still going to push the opinion of
Mr. Three Gun, would that be a clip of scene or a PCC?
That would be a your part time is like the max time you have for a stage. That would be you're gonna hit that every time. Sorry, you're done. We gotta move on.
But I've only shot 17 times. Yeah, it's a 27 shot course. So
yeah, but it's been 5 minutes already, and we got other people who want to shoot.
Sitting there, manual ejector.
Yeah, but I mean, Ian, I would. That is like the advantage with 3-gun is that again, a lot of people don't have a rifle, so you can actually get into some of those matches right now. And traditionally, Chaz 3-gun's been hard to get into because so many people have been into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have an SKS I could bring out.
Totally.
I've got one that I know is reliable, but I went and had that signed by Adam Baldwin, so it's been sitting on a shelf. And I got another one that I picked up that I have yet to fire.
It'll probably be fine.
It'll probably be fine. You just have to make sure you test it on paper to make sure what kind of Soviet windage we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they have wonderful production quality on those.
Well, hey, look, man, it's got to be a minute of capitalist. That's all it's good to be good for.
I mean, like at Chaz, I can make hits at the 500 with my SKS. It's not every shot. At the 300, I can hit every shot on like a decent sized steel plate, right? And that's enough for 3-gun. You just need to make sure that zero is correct, because if it's not, it's really hard to make your hits.
Like I said, you got to know your minute of capitalist well enough.
Yeah. But they'll do the trick. And otherwise, if you want to shoot close range, the PCC and the P shooter use a closer in target. And again, this is just like a temporary thing, because otherwise, like, how are people supposed to
compete?
Compete with this when they've lost their rifle that is purpose built for competition.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's funny when they're talking about the buybacks and so forth. It's like, do you realize how much the serious competitors may have spent on their rifle?
I would say they're saying average of like $1,000. It's like no, they're like $2,500, somewhere around there.
Yeah, like unless you're buying a pile of M&P specials, you're looking at more than that.
Well, they'll let's say that they're an M&P special, but they changed the barrel to a match barrel. They put an optic and an optic mount on it. They put a $300 trigger in there. They change out the stock. They put in a grip. They put in a $300 forend. You get up to that $2,500 mark pretty quick with these things.
Yep. Or even if you drank the Kool-Aid and you got a pony, if you got a Colt,
oof. Now you're talking big bucks.
$1,300 for your M4.
Yeah. Well, and the guys who do long range shooting, some of those guys are hurting. It's like, I just bought something for like $9,000 and now it's banned.
Yeah.
It's like, my 50 cal. 4, 5, 6. Imagine the poor bastard that owns actually a Lynx.
Oh
yeah.
I got a buddy. He was obsessed with the Lynx. He's just like, man, I want to get a Lynx. And after the gun ban, I'm like, well, bud, you waited too fucking long to get your license.
Well, I think he might be glad he didn't have to spend car money on a fucking gun.
I kept telling him that. He didn't care. He drives a fucking 2008 Hyundai Accent. He wasn't spending that money on a car specifically so he could spend it on something stupid.
Yeah. But speaking about fucking dumb things, Ian,
Yes.
That
I
was a
have a
little bit
question for
insulting,
you.
wasn't it?
I have a question for you. So I do have myself ordained as an firearms instructor now.
Okay.
By the power vested in you by the province of Alberta.
No, by the Alberta Hunters and Education Conservation Society, whatever it is, the acronym, I can't remember. What do you wish was told to new people coming into the sport from a legalese standpoint, and what do you wish firearm instructors would shut the fuck up about?
Well, in terms of shut the fuck up about, there's a whole lot of firearms instructors, and I don't know which, but who will go around spreading all sorts of incorrect information.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's too much BS out there to narrow down.
Mm-hmm.
And
If you were
You
to if
get-
you were to
get-
take a big bag and just stuff the major topics in each bag.
I'd love to see some discussions on like what your obligations are when the police stop you, because
Okay.
people get that one wrong all the time. Even some discussion on self-defense, and I'd love to see a practical element. Because one thing I see people, I made a Reddit post a while back, and I'm probably going to make a video on it. But people, you get these sort of subgroup of people who sound always like they're super keen on using their firearm, against a burglar or the like. And if it came to it, yeah, that's potentially your last line. But people don't really realize what that's going to cost them, and they don't really realize what the test is for that. And also, people don't really realize the impact that's going to have on them, because I've talked to some people who have used their firearm in self-defense, and where somebody hasn't even died, but just the impact on them psychologically, even if they just shot at somebody and that guy took off running, it can be a hard thing to live with. So some discussion of that, because I mean, so many people spend so much time arguing online over when you can and can't defend yourself, and usually there's just too many people who are wrong for me to argue with. You can't, and if I'm getting into a setting where people don't know who I am, and they don't and I'm not sort of saying people need to give me respect or whatever, anything like that is, but it's a real time saver when people say, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about, we can stop arguing this. But when people just sort of see this as some guy, it's really hard for good information to win out over bad. And so you'll get guys saying, you can't defend yourself, and you're going to get charged, and you probably will get charged. But there's a difference between charged and convicted. But you'll also get people who
real eager people.
yeah, the
I've
people who
gotten
are
into
just
that
like, I
argument
want to
on
shoot a
Discord
burglar.
before.
And it's like, no, you don't. I will tell you, you cannot get a lawyer for the price of a TV. And so if you see a guy walking out your front,
That's a good line, man.
if you see a guy walking out the front door with your TV, it's like, wish him well and lock the door behind him. Because shooting him in the
laughing at you.
back
That's
is
a
just
good
not
line,
going to, you're not going to save yourself money doing that. And I get that there's people who are frustrated, because you may have farmers and so forth who've had equipment stolen. And some of this stuff is worth huge money. But, and they get frustrated. But
Lawyer
there's
money?
only, so much you can do there.
So not the TV, but a tractor.
I
They're
mean,
driving away with the tractor.
So what you're saying is like
they're
have like a
stealing
little
co-op's
sticky,
combine.
have like a little sticky on your save that says, above this line, shoot him. Below this line, don't shoot him. And just have stuff listed.
well, the thing is you got to realize that for any circumstance, there's a real chance you end up in jail. And, because ultimately it's going to come down to, was this reasonable? Was that, what other options did you have, and so forth?
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
What's the law say, right? It's a
in the
reason.
law
What is it? Reasonable thing? I can never remember exactly the wording. It's
Whatever force is
reasonable
reasonably-
response. Is it?
Yeah.
And reasonable under the circumstances sometimes is going to be do nothing. Watch somebody drive away with your car might be more reasonable than take a shot at them. So, and you never know which judge you're going to get. because you might get a judge, there have been judges here in Alberta who have been very much, defend your property, that kind of, but you might also get judges who are very much, not in that line of thinking, who,
Hi, here in Toronto. Good luck finding a judge who lets you defend anything.
well, and there are some judges, I had one judge tell me outright in court that in their view, nobody should have a firearm. And this was a comment they made actually before they declined to impose a firearm prohibition. So the accused in that case did not get banned from having guns. But, the judge made their feelings on things very clear, in the sense of, I don't think people should have guns. I don't like them. I don't approve of them. So,
See, I'm pretty sure I've talked to Ed Burlew, and he said that one time a judge said that to him, and he had the case, like, he had it ordered for a new judge when that happened.
I mean, I would be real tempted to ask for that if it was anything other than, if it wasn't the fact that the judge was giving me what I wanted and, had basically said, I dislike guns. Nobody should have one. And they're saying this in the context of giving me what I wanted. They're not banning this guy from having guns. So this guy's still able to have firearms. But if they were saying that and then going on to say, like, I'm going to ban this guy from having guns now, that would have been grounds for appeal. I would have been at a filing in a higher level of court saying, whoa, what the hell? This is, and I think a judge would probably be a little more cautious. Sometimes what happens is you'll get judges who try to put fear into somebody. And so they'll tell them, sometimes they'll say that, there's one judge I'm thinking of, and I'm not going to name because it's probably not good practice to sort of call out specific judges. But whenever she was going to drop the hammer on somebody, in terms of sentencing, she'd be super polite. But the people that she was cutting a break, she'd come in and she'd really rip into them. And part of it is that just she's trying to put some fear into this person who's about to get a break, but she wants them to be scared so that they know next time they might not get the same break. So she'd come in and she starts ripping into my client, and I'm going, okay, good. He's gonna not get so, hammered so hard. But where she was gonna hammer the guy, where this guy's actually getting a massive sentence, she comes in, she's very polite, she's very orderly, very methodical, because she's not about to say anything that would give grounds for appeal in that circumstance. She's going to be very careful in terms of what she says to make sure that it can't be appealed easily. So I'm not sure if that judge would have made the same comment if she was about to ban the guy from having firearms and potentially looking at an appeal. But the opinion,
guess it's a balance, eh? It's just a balance between getting your point across and doing your job, eh?
Yeah, and the opinion remains there. So, I mean, telling people that maybe it's not such a great thing, and hell, even just it's not such a great thing to be posting some of this stuff to Facebook. Because the thing, I see people posting over and over stuff about, like, you should shoot, shovel, and shut up is the common line. And, but people post things like, burglars or people commit fewer crimes after they've been shot. And that kind of comment. And sometimes they post things that go even further. They say things like, well, if you have to shoot a burglar, go get a knife out of your kitchen and put it in their hand. And they post stuff like this to Facebook. And I'm going, do you realize how, I mean, this is a dumb idea because, you're going to have a full forensics team. The idea that you're smarter than the forensics team, you probably aren't, because they're used to that. They're going to check for prints. And if your prints are on the blade because and the knife is part of your set and all of this, you're going to have a real tough time in court and you're probably going to get convicted. They're good at what they do. But, let's say this guy's come in and he's got a hunting knife. It's his own hunting knife. But, he comes in, he sees you've got a gun out or you've got a bat even, and he rushes you and you hit the guy or you shoot the guy. Well, if it's a murder file, like if there's a dead person and, a bat can do that sometimes, a gun is more likely to do it. But you have to realize that this opens up all sorts of funding doors where the police are normally fairly constrained in terms of just how much time they can spend investigating a file and how much money they can spend on it.
Hmm.
Once there's a dead body, all the wallets open up. And so now they can get teams of people in. And you're probably going to be held in custody. You're going to be sitting there waiting for bail. So you're not going to be able to do anything about the stuff you've posted. And they may well go through and have a look at the stuff you've posted. You might end up going to court later and having to explain that you were in fear for your life. And they'll say, yeah, of course you're going to say that. Here's this Facebook post you made a year ago. I would not want to be sitting there in the position of having to justify how I'd talked about, making a false defense in court. A jury's going to hear that and it's going to be just absolute poison. So sometimes people are trying to make a political statement in terms of what they think the laws ought to be and so forth. But the way they go about it in some cases, I'm just like, I hope nothing bad ever happens to you, because you have really set the stage for if something bad has happened to you, it's going to be so much worse.
I
than
got
what
in an
you're,
argument on the Discord between one dude who was that. He was like, anyone who comes in my house, I'm shooting them. Doesn't matter. And another guy who was like, you should never, ever, ever, ever do it under any circumstances whatsoever. And I'm trying to argue between the two of them as to why they're both wrong. Especially though the dude who was like, anyone who comes in my house is getting shot. Because no, you don't. You can't just do that. You can't just inherently say he's in my house, he's a threat. There needs to be something more there.
I think the rule of thumb is that if you have the time to start sitting there and thinking about, legal tests and so forth, you're probably not there. And if you're at the point where there's any question about it, you're probably not at the, the legal test. Where that's going to come up is where, it's sudden and it's urgent and there's no, there's nothing else you can do. So you'll see situations, and this is not something I know about from legal practice. This is a story I heard long before I was a lawyer. But a guy who was in his garage and somebody came in with a knife. And so this guy rushed him with the knife, in fact, upon seeing him. And he reached for whatever was on the shelf and hit the guy. And what his hand happened to land on was a pipe wrench. Now, a pipe wrench is going to do a lot of damage, and, that stopped the fight. But what ended up happening to him is that the knife wasn't found. And that'll happen fairly commonly because either it gets knocked away somewhere and it's hard to find, or else the guy takes it with him. And, he's not going to tell the cops, oh, yeah, I had a knife. He's going to take that, dump it into, a storm drain or something and make it vanish. And he's going to say something like, I was looking for directions and I just happened to run into this guy. And, I was just going in to say, hey, my car's broken down. I'm looking for where to go. And this guy just decked me with a pipe wrench out of nowhere. Well, now you're on the hook potentially for his medical bills. You're on the hook for criminal, charges. So if you're ever looking at, being in the situation of possibly pulling a trigger, you want to be really certain that it was necessary and that it was worth it. So my thought on if somebody's coming through my front door with a fire axe isn't I'm going to go confront this guy. It's probably I'm going to go find somewhere that I can barricade myself and make it clear that I'm armed, but also not go to look for this guy, just sort of find a defensible and secure place. And the other thing I always think about is just people have the wrong ideas. They always have this fantasy that there's going to be somebody committing a home invasion. And home invasions happen, but the vast, vast majority of them are aimed at people who are engaged in higher risk lifestyles, like the trafficking of drugs. If you are just an ordinary person, it's probably not going to happen to you. It just isn't a super common thing.
Or they occur when no one's home.
Yeah, burglars don't. And I think burglaries have actually been way down with the current disease situation because everyone's home. Burglars aren't looking for you. The usual time when they're coming and breaking into places is during work hours, because they want to hit a place while everyone's out and while nobody's, they don't want to meet anybody. And in fact, just on sentencing, it's so much worse if there was somebody in the house. They know all this. So they want to avoid that if at all possible. So it's just not a hugely common scenario. But people notion of somebody's going to break in while I'm there and, I'm going to have to defend myself. Usually not. Usually people just want to avoid it. They want to, so, I mean, the main safety tip is don't be a drug dealer. I mean, I think, it goes without saying that should be part of your safety plan. But just where you see people breaking into occupied houses is usually situations. A really common one is somebody who thinks they're in the right house, but they're wrong. And I've seen several situations where people have been charged with break and enter because they've come home drunk. They've lost their keys, or they're confused as to why their key doesn't work. And, they knock down the door because it's cold or whatever else. And they're found asleep on the couch. And I'll tell you, if you shoot a guy who's asleep on your couch, you're going to end up in jail. Because again, the forensics guys are going to be real good. They're going to be able to tell that you didn't shoot this guy when he was up and coming after you. That you shot him when he was lying down. And, from an angle,
your couch would probably give it away too.
I mean, even if it doesn't over penetrate, you're going to have blood on the couch. You're going to have a weird angle. How do you explain this gunshot angle if the guy's supposedly coming after you? There's just, so, I mean, self-defense is an important element. And I think arguably, although I haven't seen this argued in court, but arguably it'd be covered under, the charter rights of protection of life and so forth. But people seem really overeager sometimes, and just their posts for it could cause them trouble down the road. The CFO also monitors Facebook. The RCMP has some looking on Facebook. So if you're posting on gun groups, you should assume that the CFO is seeing what you're posting.
So this is gonna sound like full on tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
But guess who has been interviewed by CSIS about Reddit?
You.
I'm guessing you.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is they monitor stuff.
Yep.
I have absolutely seen somebody facing a refusal, or a revocation of firearms license. I've seen both, where they said, here's the stuff you posted in Facebook groups. Here's the stuff you posted to Reddit. And, sometimes those things are just so, there were people who, in the wake of the one shooting, were who were posting celebrating that the guy who had, celebrating the shooter. I'll tell you, if that's the sort of stuff you're posting online, there's not a judge on the planet who's going to look at that and say, yeah, this guy should still have guns. Because they don't want, I mean, a judge is sitting there anytime that there's a revocation or a, prohibition application or the like. They're sitting there thinking, if I sign off on this guy, how likely is it that I make the news for being the person who said this guy should have guns after he went on a spree, before he went on a spree? No judge wants to be that person, especially judges are in a very difficult spot. They can't defend themselves from media attacks. When the media says this judge is a terrible judge, that judge is not permitted to comment. They're not permitted to explain their decision. They're not permitted to any of that. They just have to sit there and take it. And so, if you're a judge, that's a really terrible place to be. I spoke to, and I'm not going to even specify the level of court, but a judicial official who ended up in that position where they were, and this was just a casual social conversation, but they had the media on them about this decision. And they said, this decision at the time it was made, a lot of this information wasn't before them. They didn't actually get the information that ultimately came out. It hadn't been presented to them. And if it had been, they never would have, they would have ruled in a different direction. But it clearly bothered them because this was years after the fact, like many years after this media firestorm. And it clearly bothered them that, the way they'd been treated and the way they couldn't defend themselves. So that's always going to be there in the back of their mind. Don't make it harder for your lawyer if you're ever in the place of needing to defend against a firearm prohibition. Don't make it easier for them to get a search warrant. All of this stuff in terms of how you handle yourself and how you conduct yourself online and as gun owners, we're held to a very high standard. Yeah. But, the other thing, in terms of what people should and shouldn't do, a lot of gun owners come from a place of being very respectful to the police and perhaps deferential in ways that, absolutely the police are deserving of respect. Don't get me wrong on that one. But you also need to stand up for your rights because it's really easy to waive your rights. And so just a crash course in, what you should do when the police come to your door, that kind of thing, or if they come to, your car. And none of this is part of the curriculum because the curriculum is just purely safety.
Yeah,
but
that's one thing. There's the occasional mention. I know there's a section on responsibility, I think it is, where you go deeply into you're expected to do this, and if you don't, this is what happens. Yep. But aside from that, then it is just all safety.
Don't tell the cops shit and demand they get a warrant.
I've had a number of files that have started up with somebody's driving home from the range. They've got a gun case in the back. And the officer says, "What's in the case?" And the guy says, "Oh, that's my guns." And the officer says, "Can I have a look at them?"
No.
And the guy says, "Yeah, I can. Yeah, you can." And the officer says, "Okay." And the first thing the officer is going to do once he digs your guns out of the case is he's going to clear them. Because of course you're going to clear an unfamiliar firearm that you're just picking up, right? That's what I'd do. And I do this in court in the sense of, I've just seen an officer on the stand. He's just been handed a firearm. And the officer, if he's diligent, and not all of them are, but the first thing he does is, he checks. Is this firearm loaded? Have I just been handed a loaded gun? And, assuming that the firearms technicians and so forth and the evidence guys haven't screwed up, he's just been handed an unloaded gun. And he goes and, talks about whatever he's going to be talking about in terms of why he's been handed this gun. But on occasion, I have reason to handle that firearm afterwards. And so when it gets handed over to me, first thing I do, even though I've just seen a trained officer, I go and check it myself because I don't know who this guy is and I don't really trust anybody with that level of safety.
Because cops aren't that well trained.
Well, it depends. Some officers are absolutely 100%. Like, there's officers who just know way more about firearms than I do. But I have seen some shocking things. I've had on several occasions to ask the court to direct an officer to stop pointing the guns at me. Because, one officer in particular was sitting there the whole time and he's pointing this gun right at me. And so I was sitting there and I said, could this officer be directed to cease pointing the firearm at me? If we could let the could that be reflected? And so the court did direct that. And the officer was very sort of pissy about that. And he says, "Oh, it's unloaded." I don't care if it's unloaded. I don't believe you. Just stop pointing the gun at me. That's okay, right? Can we not do that? So there is a there is a wide range, but once the officer goes and he checks the firearm, if you're going to have a day when you've forgotten to unload the gun, it's going to be the same day that an officer happens, to look in it. That's just sort of the way the universe seems to work. Yeah, and, so now this guy who's just trying to be cooperative is now facing charges and all of his guns have been seized. And at court, it becomes a lot more difficult because now the lawyer is trying to argue that this is an improper search, but you've consented. And so once you consent to it, you give up that right. You've said it's okay. And so don't give up your rights easily. You'll get people who are talking about, I'll die before I give up my rights and Bob. And when an officer says, "Can I have a look in your trunk?" they say, "Oh, sure, let me pop it for you." And so that's not a terribly, helpful thing. And again, people should respect officers in the sense of treat them, as human beings, treat them, there's no reason to be abusive or hostile. But simply, if an officer says, "Can I have a look in your trunk?" No, officer. No.
See, now the issue, and I've never fully understood this, is I've heard that the glove box and trunk they can't search if they're locked, but they can search whatever they can see in the vehicle. So if you've got an SUV that doesn't have a trunk and the guns are behind you, can't the officer just be like, I want to look in that?
So there's the plain view doctrine, and what that means is basically if an officer is lawfully in a place and they can see something, then the fact that they've seen that is not improper. So for instance, if, let's say you've got a massive cocaine empire and you're sitting there, you're, cutting the cocaine, you've got this major mixing operation, and you've got a front bay window. And the cop right now is going around because somebody's had a burglary in the area. And so the cop is going door to door just to ask, has anyone seen anything? But when he gets to your door, knocks on your door, he happens to look over through your big bay window and sees these stacks of cocaine. And then he applies for a warrant to search your house on the basis of, I saw stacks of drugs. They're not going to exclude him having seen through your window because he was lawfully entitled to be on your porch. And he lawfully saw, he just happened to see that. But once you're going a step further from that, just because they can see a bag on your back seat doesn't mean that they can look into the bag. So if they see a bag and now they're really curious about the contents of that bag, it doesn't mean that they can say, I want to open it. And I've seen police officers claim that they could in disclosure, but that's just not correct. And similarly, if you've got a handgun sitting there in a case, they can't demand that you open the case. So, they just because they can see the case doesn't mean that the contents of that case aren't private. And similarly, you may have a rifle there. So the rifle doesn't have to be uncased. It's non-restricted. And, the test is only, is it unloaded? And the officer may say, I want to see inside that rifle in order to see, is it unloaded? But that would be a search. That itself constitutes a search. And, the court may find that it was a reasonable search. They may say, hey, the officer had to check that for officer safety, which may depend on where exactly that's sitting. Like if you've got a shotgun sitting next to you on the passenger seat and the officer's trying to give you a speeding ticket, the court might say, you know what, he had good grounds to seize that shotgun, at least in the course of this traffic stop, to make sure you didn't just point it at him and shoot him. But, if it's sitting in the, you've got an SUV, it's way at the back seat, that's less of an issue. So, and ultimately, you're going to be in a situation where you can argue the reasonability of that or whether that was a justified search, so long as you didn't give permission. And that's, a big thing is the officer's going to do what the officer's going to do, right? The officer should know the boundaries of their own authority. Now, they might step over it, but if they step over it, you want them to step over it without permission. So, if the officer says, I want to see in your glove box, you can say, I'm not consenting to any searches. But if the officer opens up the glove box, then he's opened it, right? That's, you shouldn't fight the officer over that sort of thing, like, get into a physical altercation. But it's important to note and to be clear that you're not consenting to any searches and that you're not granting permission. Similarly, I've seen people give permission to search their house. An officer comes by and says,
No.
That one I know
Yeah.
definitely not, but my misunderstanding was I thought if they could see it in the vehicle, then they were allowed to search it. Because
No,
They can do an ocular pat down. That's it. They can't actually touch it. They can just ocularly pat it down. look.
They
look
can
at it.
see what they can see, but they can't. Going that step further is potentially a problem. It's
Because I remember being scared shitless when I got pulled over for a speeding ticket. It was my 19th birthday. I was coming back from the range, and obviously I followed the law to the letter and not one iota further. And so my rifles were in the SUV behind me in a case, no trigger locks, and I'm in Toronto, where they're not going to understand that you don't need a trigger lock on the rifle. So I was dreading the idea. I was dreading the idea that I have to explain to this officer that no, I am not violating the law because these do not need a trigger lock on them. When the officer's going to be all high and mighty, going, "I know the law and you don't." So fuck
the
you.
RCMP. I don't know if you've been to like a gun shop or even like the during the course, they gave you the pamphlet. I have that. I have photocopies of that pamphlet everywhere. Glove box, in the cases, in the range bag, taped to the freaking safe. It's like, this is what you can do. This is what I will do.
Well,
Right
and I mean, you get sometimes people who've had their firearms seized by police. And so, they're going to pick them up. And sometimes I've been called upon to help with that. And really commonly, you've got people with non-restricted rifles, and they want to just pick up the gun and take it home. And the RCMP won't give it back unless you got a trigger lock. You don't need a trigger lock to pick up your gun and drive it home. You just don't. At least for a non-restricted, you don't. The standard is unloaded. It can theoretically be sitting right next to you so long as there's nothing in it. Unloaded, and I should note also the issues of careless storage, because there are some situations where you might be following the regs, but not, you're still careless. The example I give is, if you've got your shotgun and it's unloaded and you've got a box of shells and you're carpooling with a bunch of kids and you've got it in the back seat with all the kids, you're going to need more than just the unloaded. You might be following the regulations, but that's careless.
What if the
any
kids
one
are
of those
holding
kids,
it and keeping it safe, and you tell the kids, keep that shotgun safe, kids. Don't put the shells in it.
And you
give
make
the
sure you
shells
give the
to
shells
one.
to somebody else.
Yeah,
The kid,
different kid.
The other kid has the shells. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't give him the shells.
You can see how this results in a situation where you might be within the regulations, but still careless.
Yeah.
So there is that other level of, test, but they won't let you walk out of the police station without a trigger lock on it because that's their view. And
so continuing down that path, and just to fill my curiosity, and if you're okay with commenting on it, when somebody has asked you to be there and the regulation says, what's the trigger lock? What did they do? What does the police do at that point?
Well,
did they
the
really
police,
just sit there saying, where's the trigger lock? No trigger lock. Come back, we're going to trigger lock?
that's pretty much it. And, you're not going to win that fight with the police. And it's not worth going to court for. Because if you really insisted, you could possibly get a judicial order saying they are to return the firearms whether or not there's a trigger lock. I don't think a judge is going to do that, because the judge is going to think, well, a trigger lock is a good idea anyway. But
the key
you're
is
not
to
going to get into
trigger lock
court.
it, and then as soon as they hand you the gun, take the trigger lock off and be like, what are you going to do now?
You
Sit in my
could,
position.
and there's absolutely, you can pick that fight with the officers, and it might be fun, but it's going to be expensive, right? And if the officer decides he's going to charge you for this, now you're back in court, and you're not going to get out of court for cheap. I'll tell you,
mischief.
like
Yeah.
a really nice trigger lock is what, $20?
Ooh, look at you.
Listen to this money packs over here. No,
you
you
could
get the 10
probably-
packs on Amazon.
I mean, if you would, I actually thought about just going and getting, those.
Here you
cheap
go.
plastic
I have a
ones.
bag of the plastic
Yeah,
ones.
those fucking things.
I actually have thought about just getting like a bag, like get a box of those or whatever, and just keep it for when you've got the guys who are like, I don't have trigger locks, and you're just like, great, here's 7. Just to solve that problem.
I'm
But what I always-
pretty sure at gun shows, the safety. I mean, the
Zip tie.
the instructor courses, the boots with the instructor courses, they give away those.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
here
shit.
you go.
Well, and I mean, I always tell people, like, make sure you have a trigger lock for each one. And especially because sometimes the RCMP will return the gun but have lost the trigger lock. So I always tell people, I know you have trigger locks, get more trigger locks. You can never have enough of the things because they got to go on just about everything. But
And get combo ones.
Yes.
Get combo trigger locks. You can get a 3-pack on Amazon for, I think they're like $5 a trigger lock. And they're
The problem
no,
is
you,
that I always-
you used to be able to get them at the store for like $12, and those ones were nice.
I mean, you could, if you really wanted, you could probably get like a diamond studded, gold plated trigger lock, but they're just not that expensive. And so it's one of those places, it's not worth the fight. But the police are wrong in the law there. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win that fight, and I'm not going to be able to teach the officers. They're not going to listen to me. If I come in and say, "Hey, I'm a firearms lawyer," unless they happen to be somebody who recognizes me, they're going to be like, "Okay, who's this? Who's this jackass?" We're not going to take his word for it. So you can't win that fight. But know the laws, know the boundaries of it, because you may, there's always the risk that you may still get arrested. What do you do if you get arrested? Even if you're in the right, do you know what to do about that? Do you know what to
Cry.
do?
Cry a lot.
Well, you get people who, and they have something go wrong. What do you do if somebody steals your guns? If somebody breaks into your house and you get home and the front door is kicked open and the gun safe is wrenched open, and do you know what to do in that scenario? Do you know what to do in the scenario if it's wrenched open and there's an RCMP seizure notice on it?
Ooh.
Because there's
Call a lawyer.
Call a lawyer is a great, it's absolutely the answer. It's a good
you are-
answer.
I know you are legally required to report a firearm that is lost or stolen, so you can't just pretend it didn't happen.
Yep. And so, all these guys who are talking, and you see them posting on Reddit and so forth about, all my guns fell off a boat and were lost forever. It's like, well, good
Did
news
you
about
report
that
it?
is you can still go to jail for that.
Interesting, because I'm the moderator, and I'm thinking, do I have to remove that as illegal activity?
It's.
I mean, I think everyone knows it's a joke at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
no one's
I
actually.
should. You know what? I've had to draw a line at some point, because I think, yes, somebody last week posted, "Please don't be afraid," and it was just cans of Cosmoline. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah,
What
people
what is
sometimes
this?
go too far.
Yeah, what is this? Like, what? I literally said to the guy, "What are you saying?" And he's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, what are you saying?" And then he shut up, because it's like, "What are you saying? What are you saying?" Because that was the entire context of the post. Please don't be afraid. Cans of Cosmoline.
Well, and
Pretty ambiguous.
again, getting back to, would you really want to be sitting there with the RCMP applying for a search warrant with those pictures? Because I'll tell you, if they're saying, "Hey, this guy hasn't turned in his AR-15," they can probably get a warrant pretty easily for, we need to go through this guy's house and we need to, search his house and have a look in his safe and all of that. But you start posting pictures of that warrant might say, "We're specifically authorizing you to dig up his yard. We're specifically authorizing you to start ripping drywall off. We're specifically authorizing you to start searching every other, bit of property that this guy may have connections to." Do you really want the police coming out with a backhoe? Like, you've just set the stage for possible backhoeing of your property. Because if you put that
For
up,
the memes. For the memes.
yeah, and then you say, "Oh, and somebody actually does steal your guns, so you report this." And now the police might be going, "Did they really get stolen?" And you never know, a judge might sign off on saying, "Yeah, find those guns."
I think the key is to suggest that the guns are in the garden, and then they dig it up for you, and they do a really good job of working up the garden.
Wow, you really aerated my lawn.
I think I've seen that one before.
I've seen that one before, but I guarantee you, if the police are having to like dig up your yard, they're going. I mean, they're going to be ticked at you. They're not going to be doing it.
I
In
wanted
a way
the whole
that's
yard to
friendly.
be a garden, anyways. I don't care about lawn.
Like, my grass is shit. I want new grass.
Well, here's what I'd expect if you really tick them off: is just rip up the grass, dig great big holes, not fill them back in, and then send bylaw to your house the next day to be like, this is not according to spec.
That's
You've got
extra
7 days to
salty.
fix this.
That's extra
And-
salty.
And bylaw can just waltz into your backyard without a warrant because that's how that works.
Well, I mean, I have seen situations where officers are super salty at somebody. And so you've got somebody who's charged with, not just flight from police or something, but they also charge him with burnt out headlight. And if the officer's not super pissed, once they've got the charge of fleeing police, which is, you're going to go to jail if you get convicted on that, most likely. Usually they're not also going, and we're going to ding you for the burnt out headlight. Where you see that, it's like this officer was super, super cheesed.
Well,
Super upset,
the
super
thing with that too, though, is if officers show up at your house and say, we want to inspect your firearms because blah, 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 whatever, and you say, get a warrant, they're going to come back with that warrant. They're going to be pissed. So you also better get a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, the one I get asked about a fair bit is the inspection provisions.
I was just gonna ask.
And if they just show up at your house, then they're not complying with those inspection provisions. Because those inspection provisions for a residence, it's different for a business, but for a residence, they're required to give you sort of reasonable notice. And so,
And get consent or a warrant.
consent or a warrant. But one of the grounds for a warrant is that they have reasonable grounds to believe you're not going to consent. And the easiest way for them to have reasonable grounds to believe you're not going to consent is if you've already told them no. So, but I mean, those searches or those inspections are very much limited to, they're only allowed to inspect the actual firearms and so forth. So they're not allowed to, start going through your house, but they are they do have that inspection provision. They don't use it very often.
Adriel almost got dinged for that. I remember you didn't you get an angry phone call once or an angry conversation?
Oh, I
because
made
you
the phone call. I bought like 4 handguns at once, and then
Yep, that's
they were taking forever to get them through. This was very new when they first started flagging these, and yeah, and I called them up like, "Yo, where's my transfers? You guys did 2 of them, and he stopped." And they're like, "Oh, we need to ask you a couple extra questions. Where are they being stored? Bloody, bloody, blah. Why'd you buy 4 of them? It was a good deal. That's not an acceptable reason to buy handguns in Canada."
that sounds like a pretty good reason to me, but
I don't know, lady. Like, this guy was like really selling these things. They're a good price. Gave me a 4 pack deal. Come on.
but I mean, you do get people who, for instance, they buy 10 of the same gun, like the same handgun. And you got to admit, there's a certain point where it's like, we have some reasons to be suspicious.
I was at Cabela's. I was at Cabela's when one of those seemingly was happening, and the guy behind the counter was completely oblivious. Like, the guy walked in and was, "Oh, I want 3 of those shotguns."
Yeah, who
Okay.
buys 3 of something? That's a little unusual.
And he's super like, "Yeah, I want 3 of those. Like 3 of those. Those 3."
I went into Wholesale Sports when they were doing their big bad sales there, and I got bought 10 guns the one day, and I think I bought 10 the next. And there was like 3 Savage Axis and like 4 or 5 of those AB3s, and like it was pretty. But the price was good. I'm just a sucker for a good deal. That's
Oh, don't
as
worry.
someone who
I made
does-
use of that wholesale deal too.
As
I
someone
got
who
I got
does
a I got a
application keep
Versamax
Wilson.
for a steal for that.
I can completely understand why someone would buy 3 of 5, 10 of the same gun if it's like, well, I want every single year and factory of Tokarev pistol that's ever been
But
made.
no, this
for my
was, I
collection
think, if I
of
remember
Tokarev
correctly,
pistols.
it was either a Stevens 320 or a Mossberg 88. And the guy behind the counter is like, "Oh yeah, sure." He's like, "Oh yeah, but I have to like look at the serial numbers and write them down. And if you want to, you can just walk around." He told the guy while I finish all the paperwork. And so the guy wanders off.
December collectors out there.
Yeah, the guy wanders off,
Well,
and I'm standing there like 'cause, there's a lineup, so I'm in the lineup, and I just go, "So, 3 of the same, huh?" And you could almost see the light bulb go off on the guy. He's like writing down numbers, like, "Yeah, 3 of the same gun."
see, I remember on December 21st, 2012, I sold 5 guns to one dude. And it was like 2 of the same and 3 of the same. But it was like him and his buddies were all in there. It's like, yeah, we all just got our licenses and we're gonna go up shoot fucking wherever. And I'm like, well, you got your license. I'm selling them to you legally. I don't care how many of whatever the fuck you buy.
And
Sure,
that was
buy 3 of this Marlin 336.
As soon as Buddy came back, the guy in front of the corner was like, "So why 3?" And he goes, "Oh, they're for me and my friends." And he's like, "Okay, do they have their licenses?" He's like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go duck shooting, and I'm the only one in town." Like, okay. Now there's been like a conversation that has taken place, but before that, Buddy was just going for it. Like, yeah, 3 of the same gun. Sure, let me just write those numbers down, sir. You can go take a walk, and when the paperwork's done, we'll.
If they're going out of business, it could just be like, I'm gonna resell these on the internet.
That's what Adriel did. Yeah,
I've been really tempted at one point. You're out there, you see a bunch of geese. You're like, well, I've got the goose permit. I'll just hit the local sporting goods store, buy a cheap break action shotgun, and go to town.
That at least in Ontario, I think the regulations stipulate you can only have 1 loaded gun at a time.
No, what he's saying is like he's gonna go get a gun so he can come back and shoot him.
Yeah, if you're out deer hunting, you're not about to go goose hunting with your,
with your 30-06.
Did I tell you that was the first and only question that I got wrong during like my hunter's education course? It was literally like the first question. It's like, if you see a duck in the pond, do you shoot it or not? I'm like, well, it's a good shot. And then literally there was like a breakdown afterwards, percentage wise, of what people did. It was like 98% said no, I would wait for the duck to go flying, and there was like 2%. Yeah, I would shoot the duck in the water. It's like, oh, that's the wrong answer.
Yeah,
whoops.
You're not allowed to shoot a resting a waterfowl.
But
on the
hey,
water.
I was educated. I didn't know that before.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about the gun licensing thing as well, because I see a lot of people saying licensing is terrible. What it does is just because it's a hassle, like because the firearms license is a hassle, it rules out a lot of people who just don't have the patience to sit in one place for a day. And, those people probably shouldn't have guns. I mean, we all know that the test is stupid easy. But the other thing that's kind of nice is having the safety checks front loaded. So they've checked you to see if you're a dangerous person ahead of time. And so what that eliminates is the waiting period at the time when you're buying the gun.
Yeah.
So, the fact is, like, I've got a Mossberg shotgun that literally I walked into P&D, gave them my details, and walked out with the gun.
Or you can mail order, and that's something that
that's it. Yeah,
I can't do that in the States.
Well,
I ordered.
And
that 512 was a Thursday night order, shipped Friday morning, and it's here, but the post office fucked up.
About half my guns I bought online in some capacity, online, over the phone, whatever, and shipped in from some fucking place else.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm pretty sure in my safe right now, this is the only gun that I bought at a store.
I remember chasing down the post truck because it put the notice on my thing and it wasn't at the post depot yet. So I was chasing down the post truck, like driving around my neighborhood going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Just to pick up a gun.
The one that annoyed me is my dad sent me an old Kui break action 20 gauge.
Ooh.
And, of course, he sends it through the mail with signature required because that's what you do. I found that thing sitting on my porch.
Yeah, we're in a very weird time right now because signature required. They don't care
anything
about it.
Oh, this was long before any COVID or anything.
They didn't really care about it before either. I mean, you'd find like handguns and stuff between your screen door and your right
janitor
door.
Almost bake a Glock in his barbecue because they just stuffed it in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, But like
I remember that.
right now, signature required is you donating money to Canada Post because they won't check for a signature because of COVID.
But
It's a
I just
legal
came to find
requirement.
out because Tristan Spectralistics commented on that post that I made about
Mhm.
mine today. Businesses are not doing signature required; they're doing proof of ID.
Age. Proof
No,
of age.
proof of age,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
means that you have to present an ID. And I don't know why, but the guy at the door delivering the package for my wife, he's
They
like,
don't do
"Yeah,
it at the door.
I couldn't do that. I had to send it to the depot." But it's like, well, they're just gonna look at my ID, right?
Yes.
So why doesn't
But
he
they don't
have
do
the
that at
package
the
with
door.
them?
That's not
Yeah,
a
they
service
can't
they
do
do
it.
at the door. So now basically all guns go to the mail depot if
Yep.
they are following the rules.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not ideal, but I guess they're doing what they can. But I do like some of the aspects of the way licensing changes things versus the US's background check system. Because waiting 30
It's a
days
mess.
at the time when you want to buy something, that just sucks.
Very
And
state by state.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I've talked to Americans who've gone out and so one guy's out and he's out hunting and he falls off a slope and he's fine, but his gun is fucked, right? It's got a barrel bent to.
Ooh.
So he's not about to go shooting any deer with that. And then they're saying, well, yeah, you can buy another one in 30 days. So that's
Yeah.
the season,
Move out of California.
Move out of
That's the solution right there.
Yeah, move out of California or the gun
Arizona
show
is like
loophole
right
that
next
doesn't
door,
exist.
and they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, the gun show loophole that doesn't exist, or my favorite, buy it off the back of the guy's pickup truck on the Cabillas parking lot, like this guy.
Well, I mean, it's odd, the system that we've got sometimes, but it's
Having
people
the
who
card,
can't
having the
get
card is
licenses.
interesting. Having the card is handy. Having the card is almost a peace of mind. If the card wasn't so garbage.
Oh, I mean, I don't get why the card looks like something that I could possibly knock out. Like, I've seen ID badges for conventions that were as
More
good or
detail.
better security.
No, but like any security. I don't think there is any security on that card. It's just a piece of plastic with something printed on it.
The barcode on the back will literally scan with a standard barcode scanner and print out your firearms license number in straight up text.
Which
So no encryption on that.
It's just a piece of plastic. There's
I
nothing
really
on
don't
it.
see any holograms or watermarks or anything
Nope.
fancy on that.
And I'm
Fuck
pretty sure
all.
the ink is shit because mine is like I had like an old one that the face rubbed off. So it's like,
Well-
yeah, here's my license card, and like there's like a vague outline of my face on it.
And I've seen people who've had them where it splits, and so then the the photo can be removed and so forth. It's like this is not high security, but
Well,
biggest
this
problem
is
I
It's
have
still
with
no
license-
it's
security.
still better than not having a card because
The
having
biggest
the
problem I
card
have
makes
with-
it easy to sell, makes it easy to buy. If you buy
for
from
sure.
someone, they show you the card, you're good to go. Even like I really dislike the registry, but if I sell a restricted firearm, there's no like dicking around. I do the transfer. The other person completes a transfer. I get my money. There's like, what are you gonna do? I can call the cops on you. You can get charged with a crime if you dick around with this transaction.
Except when Cabela sells you a pro hip.
Yes. Yeah, except when
By the
sells
way,
you a
Ian,
pro-hip.
guess who Cabela sold the pro hip to?
Oh,
Guess who
man.
doesn't have a pro hip license?
well, it's there's a whole lot of people without a prohib license holding on to prohibs right now.
Good
It's,
point. Good point.
What was that you were saying?
Well, I mean, I've got several. It's
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. You only have restricteds, don't you?
But
the AR-15s are prohib.
Yeah, that's it, right?
well, like
I mean, what else?
Yeah.
the problem I have
Yeah,
is the fact that ownership and ownership and acquisition are tied to the same license that expires with criminal penalties when it expires.
Yeah.
See, that was one of the good things that got implemented was the essentially the grace period that was built into law that says that they can't come after you for 6 months after your license
They
expires.
shouldn't be able to. I honestly think that they should be split into two separate things. You should have a possession permit, which is more like a birth certificate valid with another piece of ID that entitles you to possess the firearms, and then an acquisition license that is a more secure photo ID for purchasing the firearms, and that the possession doesn't expire, but acquisition expires every 5 years just to get an updated photo.
Even
just-
that, I mean, they could just
I don't think criminalizing possession of firearms is at all relevant, because if you're in the process of committing an offense, you're already breaking the law. So that's just another charge.
But
for
realistically, we're
being in
never
possession of a
get,
thing.
We're never going to be able to get firearms possession decriminalized again.
I know.
So I'm
But you're
trying to
also
think about
talking
this
to a guy who thinks
realistically
like
in
the
a way.
entire Firearms Act, with the exception of licensing, should be just tossed out the window altogether. I mean, it used to be like in Weekend Gun It, you would do the old joke of I want recreational nukes. I don't want to go that far, but I wouldn't mind a cannon.
See, the thing is, I think that what we had in the 80s was all we ever needed with the FAC system, but we're never going to be able to get back to the 80s where possession was not a criminal offense. I don't think we're going to get there unless we have several, like more than a decade of pro-gun government, and that's incredibly unlikely.
Well, and I mean, just without a sea change in things. But the other thing is, there are some advantages, legally speaking, to there being a distinction between not having a gun license and a firearm prohibition. Because sometimes you've got people. So, let's say you are, potentially a danger because you've been suicidal or something like that. You are because there's that sort of gradated step, if they can take away your firearms license without hitting you with a prohibition. And where that ends up mattering is that you can still go to the range without a license. You've got to have somebody looking over your shoulder and making sure you don't, do anything improper. But you can't have the guns at your house, unless they're locked away from you. You can't, go hunting on your own, but you might be able to go with a buddy supervising you and that kind of thing. And again, the supervision and what counts and what's not. But there is that sort of intermediate step. And especially if you start looking at actually how much a firearm ban affects people, it's more than people think. Because if you like airsoft or paintball, well, a firearm prohibition actually keeps you from doing those things legally. In theory, a firearm prohibition keeps you from operating a nail gun on a job site. So,
Right, because it uses 22 blanks.
Well, even the ones that just use compressed airline.
Oh, no shit.
Because those are 84 sub 3 firearms, because they discharge a projectile which is capable of causing serious bodily injury or death. If you take a nail gun and you put it up to the side of your head, that's a bad day. So,
Yes,
and in terms of the eyeball test, if you close your eye and stick a nail gun to it, you're not seeing out of that eye anymore. You're going to need, you're going to be dressed like a pirate for the rest of your days.
You're going to see a nail.
And, so that firearm prohibition is a pretty substantial thing. So the licensing to possess allows for that sort of intermediate step of them taking away your license to possess without imposing the prohibition. And you're in much worse shape, criminally speaking, if you're found with a gun and you are under a prohibition than if you're found with a gun and you have no license. So it's much more serious if you are under a gun ban and you have one than if you were just, a guy without a license.
Now, can you tell that to the judges in Toronto, please? Because they don't seem to understand the difference here.
Well, I mean, they're still going to add extra sentence if you're under a firearm ban.
But if you're under a firearm ban and caught with a gun, you shouldn't be getting fucking bail. And they're giving these fuckers bail. And what do they get caught with 3 weeks fucking later? A gun. After they shot someone with it.
See, the thing is bail, they haven't proved that you've done anything yet. So you haven't been convicted.
I watch your video. Yes, I watch your video.
So I tend to be a big proponent of bail. And the problem is that the cases that make the news as like, why did this guy get bail? Well, here's the thing. If you're under like 7 gun bans and they find you with a handgun as you're dealing drugs, you're probably not getting bail. But you might still get bail, for instance, if you're under 7 gun bans and you're the rear passenger and they find a handgun tucked in the glove compartment. They're going to charge everyone in that car with possession of the firearm because that's what they do. And there's some practical reasons for that, which is that what they don't want is, let's say they think that the gun belongs to the driver. They could just charge the driver, but then one of his buddies could go up and say, that was actually my gun. I put it in the glove box. Nobody saw me do it. So, and then the court is going to be stuck being forced to acquit the driver because they've got this other person who's testifying under oath that it's his gun. That's probably enough to get them to reasonable doubt. But if they haven't charged that person, then they can't actually go after him for that at that point, because now they go up and they charge, they say, oh, we screwed up. We're going to charge him for having that gun. And he goes up and they can't force him to take the stand because you have a charter right not to be compelled to be a witness at your own trial. So what do they have is he's the rear passenger in a vehicle where the gun was found in the glove box. Good luck proving he knew it was there. So they can end up, if they don't charge everyone, they can get up in a situation where they can't convict anyone. And they certainly want to get a conviction if they're finding an illegal gun in somebody's glove box as they're driving around dealing drugs or whatever else. So, but where the case against that guy's real weak, you probably got a good argument for bail, right? And I've seen, I see people say there shouldn't be any bail for gun charges at all. Well, if my license expires and, I'm just going to check the date again because
I have a reminder.
Hey, I got a few years. So, if it expires and I haven't checked it out, suddenly I am committing a whole bunch of firearm offenses. And so, I think that if that happened, I should still get bail. And I think if that happened, and you get, farmers who've had a gun that's been in their family for, years,
or like you said in your video, Mini 30 boy that has been shooting coyotes with his Mini 30 for 25 years. And now what?
And now it's banned. So now you've got a guy with a prohibited firearm. And
same as a grenade. Yeah.
Well, and he might even have a nasty record. You've got some people, you might have a person who has like 20 breaches, but they're from 15 years ago. And when the media gets a hold of this, I guarantee you they're not going to say, well, all of these breaches happened 15 years ago because 15 years ago, this guy was a gangster and he was, doing all this bad stuff. But now he's, reformed. He's got a job. He's, maybe he owns a company, maybe employing 20 people.
If he's got 15 breaches, like criminal charges, convictions from 15 years ago, chances are he's got some long-term firearms prohibition against him.
Maybe. I mean, sometimes people have terrible records that just predate firearm prohibitions. And, sometimes they just have charges for different things. I mean, you might have somebody who's got a record for breaches, but the only thing they ever did was, they stole alcohol from a liquor store and then got a whole lot of breaches for being an alcoholic. So all of their breaches might just be, you had alcohol, you shouldn't have had alcohol. But when the media gets a hold of this, they're going to report that this guy has a terrible record and, 15 breaches, and they're going to leave out that it was, 2 decades ago. So the media does a terrible job. And quite often I see situations where it's reported that people have committed crimes that don't even exist in Canadian law. And, because sometimes journalists don't know Canadian law from American law. And so people get really up in arms about these cases they see in the news, and we don't actually know that they are anything like what they sound like. How many times have we seen the media report on a guy who's got an arsenal? And we see he's got like a 22, a 12 gauge break action, and 4 boxes of 22 ammunition.
Oh, there's always a Tapco SKS in there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my favorite one is they have a stockpile of ammunition and it's like 2 fucking span cams. I'm like, fuck, I think I have that in my basement somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen almost every time I've seen them talk about somebody seizing, an arsenal of firearms. I look at what I've got and it's usually like Well, I mean, the guy's got a decent starter set.
See, I'll see them call like 3 guns, 5 guns an arsenal, but then they seize 33 guns and they don't use any of this shocking language around it. They'll just
Well, because the
police
33
seize
guns
33 firearms.
I mean, the 33 firearms often speaks for itself. I mean, there was one where they had a seizure. Some guy was knocking out Sten guns. And I saw this in the news. And they just, they said, we seized 12 guns. And I see they've got laid out 12 Sten guns on this table. And I'm going, you could have made a much bigger deal about this. Because anybody who's manufacturing 12 Sten guns, those aren't going for good purposes, right? It's,
No.
he's not
Was
selling.
that the same homeboy that had the lathe and was just cranking out cans too?
I can't remember, but it's not.
I could swear it was the same guy because I think it was a guy in northern Alberta who just had a lathe and he was just pumping out open bolts and cans. Just
I didn't know if this was the guy at Borden who was doing that because there was a dude at Borden making cans.
The thing is, there's all sorts of people that this comes up to, and it falls into 2 categories. You've got your experimenter, so somebody who's real curious and just kind of wants to knock out a few cans and test them out and see what they do. And that guy, to my mind, isn't a major sort of social problem. He's just an idiot. And then you've got the guys who are like in small scale manufacturing, and you're like, where are these going? Now, I have yet to see a suppressor used, like the drug dealers who are caught with handguns. I've never seen them with a suppressor. Because, of course, if you're walking around town dealing drugs, what they're doing is they're cutting down rifles so that they're, more concealable.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like really tragic scenarios, like, hey, this guy's got some collector piece and somebody stole it and cut down the barrel and cut down the stock. And now its collector value is nothing.
well, it was never going to be anything once it hit like an evidence locker because it's just going to be scrap.
Well, I mean, sometimes you've got, what you end up with is the police calling somebody and saying, hey, we found your gun. And you would totally have been eligible to get it returned to you, except it's been cut down and it's now prohibited. Maybe we might be willing to return it if you take it to a gunsmith to get, repaired back to not prohibited status.
That's brutal.
But if you're talking
That's
about somebody
brutal.
with a collector piece with like all matching serial numbers, original stock, documentation, I've seen situations where it's like this guy's got a verified, documented, valuable piece.
Ooh.
I mean, I've seen people who've had guns stolen that were in like the tens of thousands of dollars, and then it gets, by the time the police find it,
Oh, you know what?
that
You know what it is? Over-unders. Those fuckers are expensive and easily chopped.
And the thing is,
Yep.
is by the time it's been chopped, in some cases, it's just like, if you idiots manage somehow to like smuggle this across the border and sell it in the States, you could have made bank on this gun. Like, if you've got a 30 grand shotgun and you sell it for 10, it's going to move in a hurry. But they don't know the difference between a 30 grand shotgun and a $300 shotgun. So they just take it and saw it down. And, but they're always trying to modify them to be smaller because they want it something that they can tuck into a jacket, something they can hide in a car or something. What does a suppressor do? Well, it adds several, at least several inches in length and a whole bunch of bulk. So they don't want them. It's, the strategy is if they got to use the gun, they shoot somebody and they run away. And the other thing people really don't understand about criminals is that they're very poor at planning how to get away with it. What they're all, no, it's the assumption in their head is that they are going to get away with it. And so they just plan ultimately that, I'm going to get away with this. And that they don't think about how to make that happen. And of course, I'm not going to give them any tips, but there's that sort of fundamental disconnect. And so often the planning into how to get away with things is just laughably simple. You've got drug dealers who plan, I'm going to swallow drugs or whatever, but they don't really plan for what a criminal trial is going to look like. Because I'll tell you, if you're trying to argue that the drugs were for personal possession, but you're sitting there trying to stuff them down your throat, Well, you've probably blown that argument because now you're behaving like a drug dealer, so that behavior is now evidence and so forth.
Yeah.
But they don't want
Let's
the
weep.
press. It's,
Let's weep for the 30 grand shotgun. And if you're okay with it, you're more than welcome to join us in any of these stupid shows.
Oh, I've had a blast, and you know, it's yeah, it's I enjoy sort of sitting and chatting. One of the big things is I enjoy teaching the law. I've taught firearms and weapons law at the U of A a couple of times. I'd teach it again if my schedule worked out for it.
Yeah.
It's but that's sort of why I started the Facebook group, why I do the YouTube videos and so forth. I just like
Oh, yeah. What's the name of your channel?
Runkle of the Bailey, which is now on Spotify and on YouTube.
What?
Well, somebody said I don't like watching YouTube videos. I just want something I can listen to because I got limited bandwidth. So I was like,
Makes sense.
all right,
Wow.
how much of a
It's
pain?
easy to turn around into a podcast, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just took the videos that don't have a lot of thing. It doesn't work for the videos where it's like, here's the legislation, read along with me. Because, of course, you know, that's not going to do you a whole lot of good in text. But for the stuff where it's just me talking, you know, it's just extract audio, plug in, and off it goes.
Ian Runkle,
So-
Runkle of the Bailey. There it is.
Yep, it's I hope I don't get sued over that, although I did search and I don't think anyone's got the active trademark for Rumpole of the Bailey, but if they do, I'll have to figure things out and work out a compromise with them or the like, but the name made me laugh, so that's good enough.
There you go. Then I think, aside from sign up for all the maple seeds that are out there, and we'll be back sometime whenever things fall into place again.
Sounds
go.
good. Thank you for having me on the show, and look forward to possible future shows.
There you go. Adriel, say goodnight.
Good night.
Everybody else, say goodnight too.
Good night, too.
Good night too. Kill the stream.